Shalom, brethren. Welcome all. Okay. Um, wow, looks like we have a bunch of people in here. I've had a very busy day. Today was my mother's 70th birthday. We went to the forest and did a bunch of zip lines, which was very exciting. And then I was doing my best to listen to the debate on the way home. Let me put the link in the description and just get some people in here to get this show going because I didn't really have time to just relax and have my head in the right place for this. So the link, I have just put it into the side chat. I'm going to put it in the description too. Well, I'll wait till there's some people here before I put it in the description. Bree, I'm very glad you're here. I wanted to tell you about this debate, but I was out with my mom doing the zip lines and hassling with this as I was coming home, trying to be on time for this stream and keep up with what was going on. I'm very glad to see you here, sister. So I'm gonna go ahead and well, I'll just start giving some of my opinion of the debate while I wait for people to come into the room. So there's someone in here. Andrew's in here. I'm just gonna go ahead and bring him in and start having discussion. Okay, just taking a second to load. Hello, Andrew. Do you hear me? Andrew. Oh, I think I heard him. But okay. George says to see my beard. There it is. Hey George, how's it going, brother? So this debate seemed like it might have been pretty much stacked, to be honest. The pro murder side was not competent. Nine Tails has been in debates before, and he was very didn't perform in the other debate I saw him in either. And Hannah and Nine Tails seem to think that the lives of children are nothing more than kind of a joke and something fun to argue about, so long as the children are in the womb. I don't really have anything to say against the arguments they made or anything. I don't think they made any arguments. It was really just a joke. So last time there was an abortion debate, I did an after show. I was pretty much the only Christian here. Looks like it's going the opposite this time. And I didn't do the best job of defending it. I wasn't prepared really, but I decided that I should talk about abortion when I had the opportunity, that otherwise I wouldn't really be able to live with myself if I just had the opportunity to have that discussion and I didn't have any discussion, you know? So this time I watched some videos and I have some video clips that I can pull up and stuff if the conversation gets there. But yeah, Paul Christensen, it is pro-murder. They are supporting murder. That's a fact. And I don't see how you can classify it as pro-murder. Well, that's a very strange thing to say. I mean, I could maybe see someone disagreeing, but the idea that you can't see how killing a human being would be classified as murder, you don't even see how. I think you're a liar, frustrated atheist, a straight up liar. Okay, so Andrew, are you able to speak now? You were here first. Now Andrew's thing is loading a lot and stuff. So Gavin, how is yours going? Can we hear you?
Shalom, Nicholas. How's my sound?
Hello. Perfect.
Cool. Thanks for the after show. That was I mean, MDD's had a lot of really bad debates. I think that would rank um, fairly near the bottom of the worst debates. Transgender pro-lifers who can't possibly ever get pregnant, um, championing the right to choose, right? But they're actually already alive. They're already born. I think it's the most bigoted and hypocritical position to take if you're a pro-choicer and yet you're already born. So I thought it was a joke. I thought the pro-lifers did well. I thought they did exceptionally well, but there was some crazy
I'm
liberal
I'm
comments.
back.
Okay, let's let Andrew talk while he's able. If you're able, Andrew, go ahead. Yeah, Andrew, I think you should try leaving entirely and coming back in entirely, and then hoping it works
Yeah,
better.
that's what I'm trying to type in the
But
message, trying to leave and say I'll come back, but it's not letting me even.
yeah, let's just try again. If you start over, maybe it'll work better. And apparently, StreamYard's not doing great at the moment because a couple of the icons aren't working very well either. So was it not even letting you leave? Are you my prisoner? Yeah, let's just try it again. If you start over, maybe it'll work better. Oh, hold on, I gotta mute my show. So okay, Jesus is Lord. Please go ahead. Oh wait, no, Connor was in here first. Sorry, Connor, go ahead.
Oh, you said it's going the other way from last time, so I had to come in here and stir the pot a little bit, get some opposing opinions.
Oh yeah, we need opposing opinions. Oh, I put this comment on the screen. Give me one moment. Yes, abortion is obviously not medicine. Now, there are times when pregnant women have medicine done on them and the child inside is not able to survive. That is not the same thing as an abortion. But abortions are not medicine. They are in defiance of the Hippocratic Oath. And any doctor who has ever performed an abortion without repenting for it is a murderer. Plain and simple. That's an obvious fact. So I don't know why Brian Stevens is. Yeah. So thanks, Brian, for reinforcing that. So go ahead, Connor.
That's all I have to say for now.
Oh yeah, you said you were going to stir the pot, but you haven't stirred it. But that's
other
okay.
people can make their introductions and stuff. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Jesus is Lord.
Hey, what's going on? Shalom,
Shalom,
brother.
brother.
Thanks for having me. I just found out about your channel, so I just subscribed and I say, hey, well, we're talking about abortion. So now I didn't watch the debate because I just didn't want those images playing in the house. I mean, the pro-choice side was just abominable. So,
Well,
but
the image of them was nothing. You should have heard like how nonchalantly they were talking about the death of babies. Like it was just a practical matter of convenience kind of concern. And that wasn't how they talked about it all the time, but they both made the point very straightforward that that's enough. That if the mother chooses to put herself in a situation to get pregnant, she can then murder the child just because she
yeah,
would like to. They were very insistent on that. And not only that, but if the mother and father, they choose to possibly make a child and then the child is made, we are all born from biology. None of us has a right to complain about biology. And so for someone to then be like, this biology is burdening me or something is pretty absurd, I think. But
yeah,
sorry, Dale, I'm passionate. It's your turn. It is your turn.
yeah. They're forced to take that view, because that radical view, because the science has left them behind. So they can't argue from science anymore. Now they have to bring in philosophical questions, human being, which is not a scientific term. So that's what their personhood, for example, they're forced to jump from the science over to the realm of philosophy in order to argue this sick, vile behavior that they are justifying. It's sad, it really is. But I didn't even think there was any atheists interested in debating abortion anymore because, like I said, they don't have the science anymore. The science has refuted the idea that this is not human life that you're killing. Really, we would say it's murder, but according to the law, they would say it's not. Well, according to God's law, it is murder. Simply put, yeah. But I didn't watch the debate, so I guess I'll just listen in to see what some of the points were brought up. But I'm pretty sure it's more of the same.
Yeah, I
Shalom.
mean, I don't know for sure how much we'll be talking directly about the debate, or if we're going to be discussing the topic for ourselves a lot here. And yeah, it's the science is very clear. You have one cell that functions one way, which is a sperm, and another cell that functions another way, which is an egg. And then when they meet, a new cell is created, which is the embryo, which has a third person's genetics, and it has a different function, and it even creates a wall so that no more sperm can get in. So we know the moment when the individual is created in the cell of a new life form is created. So we know the moment that the life starts. So that's scientifically established, and that's not a debate. But then philosophically, is human life always sacred? And I don't think that's just a religious thing to say human life is sacred. I think that's a human thing, right? And so
Amen,
then
Nicholas.
then the idea comes to be, when is it actually a person, is what they call it, and I'll just use that word to be simple. So when does the child become an actual person instead of a pre-person human? And let's say there's a booth. You cannot see in the booth, and it's locked, and you have to get in the booth, but there could be a person in there. And the only way to get in the booth would be to blow it up and kill the person inside if they're in there. There may be a person, there may not be a person in there. I mean, can you just put a bomb next to a booth and blow it up to get inside, not knowing whether or not there's a person in there? Because that's the thing about this debate. Debating about when the person is a person, you have to err on the side of caution when it comes to human life. That's not an argument that goes for pro-choice. Like, we're not sure when it's a person, so it's okay to kill them as long as we're not sure. That works the exact opposite way around. If you're not sure, then you have to be careful and not kill someone. That's just how it works in real life. So, yeah, someone's going to have a hard definition of how they're not humans in order to justify the risk of murdering them. And then, praise I am that I am, I'd like to let you have a turn.
Hey, Nicholas, thanks for having me.
Thank you, brother. Shalom.
Shalom. Yeah, so I thought it was a total horror show, and it's revolting. You can see how revolting and debauched the godless worldview is. And I would say both sides fail, because the other side, I'm saying even the pro-life side, they were actually soliciting condoms and things like that, and that just allows you to be a debauched individual. And see, the Bible prescribes you to get married and then have children. That's fine, but I thought it was a total horse show.
Well, considering we want to show that it's not only a matter of religion, and that it's also an ethic across the board, that we don't murder humans and we don't murder children, and that we respect facts. I would like personally to debate it, and to debate it from a Christian perspective. But I'm also glad that there is a debate going on from a non-Christian perspective. that still wants to protect the children, you know? So yeah, while obviously I agree with you, Praise, I am not going to complain about a couple of atheist women doing their best to argue to save babies' lives. I'm definitely cool with the pro-choice side.
Oh, so there were 4 women.
No, there was 2 trannies and 2 women.
I know. I'm just. I was confused. That's why I couldn't play it. I could not play that.
It was a
Maybe
horse show, Joe.
And guys,
I couldn't.
let's we can use the real pronouns and be honest about it, but let's not try to like push it out there more than just being honest about it. Because just being honest about their gender is already going to be really offensive to people, you know? And I'm not trying to offend anyone, but I don't lie. That's just not what I do.
Well, as far as them arguing from, they weren't Christian, the 2 women that were arguing pro-choice or pro-life, they weren't Christian, or I don't
No,
really.
one was a self-proclaimed atheist. She said it twice. I am an atheist. I'm an atheist. She had to make it clear. And I'm saying, well, you can see that's still not much better than the other side, because it's promiscuous, it's godless, and the child has no type of substance or spirit restrictions, like commandments and things like that. So the fear of God is the beginning of all wisdom.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a good point. It's like, yeah, that's a very good point, Praise. I can't argue with any of that. So, Connor, now that 4 of us have spoken our side, are you ready to be the counter opinion?
I was mostly just memeing around with that. Like, I've been on Smokey's streams before, and I don't stir the pot very much. Like, if you say something I completely disagree with, I'll
Okay,
disagree with you about it.
Well, what is your perspective, Connor? Because I know we've hung out some, but you don't have a picture up, and I meet so many people. I'm trying to remember exactly who you are.
Fuck. When was Saturday? I was on Smokey's stream last.
Oh, yeah,
I
but
haven't really
just
said
for the whole crowd too, if you can just
Yeah.
like introduce your worldview and stuff real quick.
I consider myself atheist, but not like anti-theist. I guess you would be the most recognizable term. Like,
Okay,
I'm not
so
opposed
you
to
are
the
without.
idea of-
You're just without theism.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I consider myself pro-choice in the topic that's going on.
Okay. Well, since life begins at conception, how do you justify the option to end that human life?
There's always cases where because something's a human life, it doesn't mean that it's always the morally perfect solution to sustain it.
I'm not talking. Well, yeah, but I'm just asking in the case of aborting children in standard circumstances, which I think we mostly presume is that it's not planned yet, or they're afraid they can't afford it or something. I mean,
like
I'm just asking, like, life begins then. When we take a human life, we justify it. Like when we put a murderer to death, we say it's because they're a murderer. We don't say, well, it's not always right to let a human live. We would never say that about.
say that
So
they
I'm
lack
asking
the
you,
right
how do you justify ending the human life that starts at conception?
you just
Or how do you justify that
rights.
it's a choice? Sorry, I don't want to put words in your mouth. How do you justify that it's a choice?
We use the rights that were granted. So we consider a murderer immoral because he didn't have the right to impose on the other person's will. So in the case of abortion, that's not the case. It's not just somebody walking up to somebody that's independent in the world and just going, ha and stabbing them in the face.
Well, that's not what murders are either. Murders are usually personal. And I have a question because you did just say that murder is because of defying another person's will, but it's actually because you end their life entirely. Like people defy my will all the time. I'm not the boss of people. So I don't know, Connor, if you can be more careful with your choices because,
Imposition on their will.
or if you can be more careful with your word choices because this is kind of, you know,
Nicholas,
yeah.
Nicholas, can I take issue with Connor's comments?
Yeah, as long as we're not
Yeah,
talking over
Connor.
each other and stuff, please.
Sure. And I apologize for the lag on what I'm saying because I'm way down at the bottom of the earth. Connor, you made the comment that there's always situations where in a pregnancy it's not always the morally right thing to keep the baby and keep the baby through full term and give birth to the baby. Are you kind of alluding to instances of incest or rape, for example?
So no, I was making a general statement. It didn't have anything to do with pregnancy when I said it. So I said there's cases where it's not always the most moral solution to keep somebody alive. There could be something that
Right.
they've done that would be less moral to keep them alive.
Well,
Okay.
if I may ask
okay.
you real quick, Gavin, to pause, because I don't mean this rudely yet, Connor, and I interrupted you before you got to really get deep into it, but so far you haven't said anything yet. But since Smokey Saint just came in, I'd like to hear his opinion of the debate. And please, Smokey.
Are you sure? I had to take a moment.
You know, you could be honest about the genders, but don't dig into that. That's already sensitive
Okay.
for people. But be honest about it. So yeah, go ahead. Let loose.
I'm confused. I was wondering, like, if this is just kind of like the new leftist life hack, since they've kind of set the rules for themselves that unless you're a woman, you can't comment on women's rights. So now they just pretend to be women so that they compete in these debates. I don't know why there was 4 atheists essentially arguing for child's rights with some of the most grotesque, garbage, and nonsensical arguments I'd ever seen. I mean, if I was to break it down to the leftist side of argumentation on everything, women's feelings are greater than children's lives. And, you know, using that as just the basis of the substance of their entire argumentation carried forward to reductio ad absurdum is basically the license of just about every single nightmare that could be possibly perpetrated against a child, both before and after birth. So, you know, these people are just a grotesque monstrosity of amoral, disgusting character, and it shows. You know, there used to be a time where we'd look at 2 clearly disgusting, amoral, mentally ill degenerates and say, yeah, I expect that their opinions and perspectives would also be amoral and disgusting. But now they seem to be able to take their disgusting perspectives and keep them protected as long as they work themselves into some mentally ill protected class of degenerates in our common society. And I just find the whole display to be completely disgusting. I don't even know why this happened. I don't know why it was there. I don't know why certain arguments were made. And I just found it foul and distasteful and just really irritating to watch.
Here.
Was that James's idea?
I hope not.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, it seems to me that it was stacked on the pro-life side. You had 2 competent debaters on one side and 2 jokes on the other side. So, but here I want to respond to this that Nathan Artwork said. Like, if you want to make claims about isn't a independent person like are 3-year-olds independent people? That's a definite no. So apparently, Nathan Artwork thinks that 3-year-olds can be murdered because if you're not an independent person, you can't be murdered. Like, this statement just makes no sense. It isn't even an argument at all, or even a discussion. This is just, I want to think something, so I say something. Okay, Nathan.
Why don't we have more? Why don't we have more of the proponents of the baby butchering willing to come in here and actually pitch their case in person?
Because there's no defensible argument. The science has left them behind. They have nothing but their own philosophy, opinions, inklings. That's all they have. That science has left them. They can't appeal to it in this case. Well, they
And
can in any other case, but
when it comes to debate, this debate is settled. I mean, last week the after show was such a joke. Snake was seriously trying to talk to me about how can we be sure to identify when there's a new human, because cancer cells are human cells. So is that a human? Are we murdering when we take off cancer cells? And I even gave him good answers and stuff, and he pretended he wasn't getting good answers. And it was just an endless train of nonsense. Last time I did this, and I was pretty much I was the only Christian in the room, and then eventually Noah showed up. We haven't seen Noah in a while, unfortunately. But
Yeah, I miss Noah too.
and he didn't really say anything. He just a couple times when I asked him, he was like, "I like what you're saying. You're saying it for us. Good job." So I was like, "All right."
Noah's young and he's learning, and he has that heart of humility to earn his position before he starts speaking a lot, I think is what it is. It's just his heart is all it is. He's learning to be a youth pastor.
Yeah, and the fact that he'd rather be responsible first before putting stuff out there.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's very, very
like he's
wise.
come into my stream and asked me some pretty deep questions a few times, and like clearly he thinks about it very, very deeply, but he's not ready to come out and start talking about it. I think he does look at teaching with a lot of reverence, so he wants to make sure he's ready.
Yeah, that's very good of him. And here with Nathan artwork, he says he specifically said fetus.
Irrelevant.
Wait, hold on, because I got this right here. Connor is right. The fetus, and then here's the active
Wow.
words, is not an independent person that you can murder. I mean, if you wanted to skip independent person, you could have skipped that, but you chose your words, and our God told us that from the abundance of the heart pour forth the words of the mouth. And 3-year-olds are not independent persons. So Nathan, I mean, if you want to come in here and actually talk about it in full, obviously your quick little comments aren't going to do anything but give us a chance to insult them.
Yeah, Nathan, and especially when you say fetus, the word fetus literally means baby. I think it's taken from Latin. I should pull it up, but you're actually calling it a baby. You're not even separating the words the way that you want to separate the words. You're just trying to basically, what you're doing is you're actually involving yourself engaging against the leftist moral code of actually devaluing a life based upon your own prejudice against it. You see, you have a bigoted brain of thinking that because the child isn't born yet, that it's not really alive. That's just your own disgusting, amoral, bigoted thinking. So you classifying as that doesn't actually change the reality that it's a life. It's just you being a disgusting, amoral trash can, finding a way to justify baby murder. That's all you are. You're just a disgusting piece of social filth that's trying to find a way to justify slaughtering the innocent. That's all you'll ever be.
It's human life. I would add to that, human life, because they'll try to argue, well, your fingernail is human, so it's human life. Can I read something from a textbook? What they claim to follow science.
Amen. Go for it, brother.
This is from Human Embryology, 2nd edition, and quote, although life is a continuous process, fertilization is a critical landmark because under ordinary circumstances, a new genetically distinct human organism is thereby formed. A combination of 23 chromosomes presents in each pronucleus, results in 46 chromosomes in the zygote. There you go. Science has left them behind. They have nothing but their philosophy.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, we're willing to have the philosophical discussion, but I have a few video clips, and we can just talk about how one-sidedly awesome our side of the argument is if no one more is going to come in to make it. Of course, we'll have a discussion with Connor too, of course, in a minute here. Yes, Smokey?
If it's a terrible argument, frustrated atheist, why don't you come in the room and talk about it and actually confront what part of my argument you think is terrible?
Oh wait, I forgot to put
there and making blanket accusations.
And I don't think I've put the link in the description yet, unless
I've been putting it in chat here and there too.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks.
I have an interesting question for you guys, and see what you guys think about it. So they think the baby's part of the woman's body, but shouldn't they call it amputation rather than abortion if that was the case?
I don't think they're saying it's part of the woman's body, but they're saying it depends on the woman's body. But we have some pretty interesting stuff to go into about the biology. Like, for instance, there's an argument that a parent is not legally obligated to give their kidney to their child to save their child's life.
I need.
Now, what?
I no, it's fine. Go ahead, Nicholas. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so a parent's not legally obligated to give their kidney, though they probably should. It should not be the law, is what most people think anyway. So just granting that, then they say essentially same thing with the uterus, right? The child doesn't just have a right to the uterus. But then if we look at the purpose of the organ, the purpose of the kidney is to keep the mother alive, the mother being the woman, to keep the woman alive, and to clean out her system and stuff, and it serves her. And then the uterus, the purpose of the uterus is for the sake of the child. Every month, in expectation of a child, the uterus goes through a certain process so that if there is a child, the uterus is ready for it. Now, a woman could have her uterus removed and live, but a woman's offspring will not live unless they first depend on her uterus. The nature and function of the uterus is not for the woman, it's for the child. And then also, we're each born through that biology, so we have no right to complain about that biology and murder other people over the inconvenience of biology that gave us life. And I mean, obviously, I have a more God-based perspective, but I'm trying to make a rather universal argument here.
Amen, brother. Amen. I really would like one of these degenerate baby butchering God
They're
haters
not
to
coming.
actually come in here and try to defend some of this.
It's not happening.
Nicholas,
One moment, guys. Well, go ahead, Gavin.
I've just got a quick question for Connor, if you don't mind, Nicholas.
Yeah, if you guys will, I got to put this link in the description. So if you guys will talk to Connor, just to be easy with him. He's the only
Yeah, sure.
guy in here, and he doesn't sound too passionate about it. So let's not.
Sure. Sure.
No,
So-
I clearly
so-
haven't targeted him yet. I haven't targeted him yet, clearly. So
So, Connor, just to be clear, you're pro-choice, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you'd be quite happy that you weren't aborted when you were a developing baby inside your mum's womb?
I mean, it would be unfortunate, but I wouldn't impose that feeling of mine on somebody else. Like, oh, it sucks for me, therefore you have to do it.
No. My question to you was, you would be quite happy right now that you weren't aborted by your mum when you were developing in her womb.
The benefit to me isn't really relevant. Like I just said, if I was, it would suck, but that doesn't mean that somebody's obligated to make it not suck for me.
So you don't think life is a benefit?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's obligatory.
Okay, one moment, everyone. The link to talk is now in the description. You might need to reload to have the link in the description, but it's there now. Okay, go on.
Yeah, I wanted to, because I just read a quote or a comment by someone in the chat. The whole you're not obligated to do this. That may
What's their name?
I think it was, well, don't put it up on the screen. But basically the argument is that you're not obligated to carry this baby to term. That would only work, and this isn't for Christians, in the case of rape. If you choose to have sex, everyone that has sex knows that there's a possibility you could get pregnant. Therefore, yes, you are responsible to take that term, to have that baby, to take that pregnancy to its full term. That's your responsibility. You made the decision to lay down with a man, and you were impregnated. It's your responsibility to carry that baby to term. It's not an excuse. Well, I don't want the child now. That doesn't work. It's irresponsible.
Yeah, and
So-
these
so
are
two things
standard
are really
human
pushing out.
parental responsibilities. This is nothing exceptional or out of the ordinary. It's just standard parental responsibility. It's just like you have to feed your child, or you have to make sure that if you're not going to have your child, that you give it to an adoption agency, or I mean, you just can't neglect your child or abuse your child or murder your child, right? So it's just standard child care.
It's disgusting that they're acting as though that like the coronavirus, she just caught it.
Yeah,
like
and
it's a disease,
yeah, and parental responsibility is another very good and very fair way to approach this topic. I mean, Connor, what do you think about the abandoning of parental responsibilities when one kills their own child instead of carrying it?
So I'm just going to talk about the other things that you said before, and then I'll answer that. So, one, I wasn't making like an overarching, all-encompassing argument for abortion. I was specifically like answering the question that he had asked me about how I would feel about it. So that's why I was talking about responsibility, but it's not somebody else's responsibility to make me happy about something. That's why I said that. I wasn't saying that about the entirety of the abortion argument, just responsibility of how it makes me feel about it.
Oh yeah, and I actually hear you that like he was just I think Gavin was trying to relate to you in a real way. It wasn't necessarily that he was trying
Yeah, I know.
to
It was
make a
just-
definitively winning argument.
No, I know. I was just addressing because that's the way that it was responded to. So I was just clarifying. And I'm not really interested in making like a child a punishment for sex. Like you have to be responsible for this mistake that you made with this child. Like that's not really a healthy way to look at the kid. So I mean,
Okay, well
uh,
now I need clarifying questions. That was very confusing for me. So you said you're not looking to make a child a punishment for sex.
yeah. So when you say that it's your responsibility for if you have sex, you have to be prepared to pay the consequences of having a child. Well,
Oh
that
yeah, I
implies that-
mean, we all came
Well,
from the
yes,
fact that that's biological effects, and from a Christian perspective,
Wait,
there's reasons we would wait until marriage for sex, and then from cultural, like from scientific society stats, we know the damage that is done by single parent households and stuff. I mean, we have the facts in on what is healthier too. Go ahead, Smokey.
I was just wondering what the justification is to have protection from consequences of irresponsible sex. I'm wondering where the moral compass is pointing in that exactly. Like, does everyone have the right to just have their own type of irresponsible, deviant behavior, regardless of consequences, chasing after their feelings up to and including the eradication of a human life, and that's just what okay?
So that's what I'm saying. I don't consider a person a consequence. I feel like
Clearly, the intended consequence of sex, sir, is a person. That's
Oh, yeah,
kind of the whole point of it.
Well, I want to clarify real quick. The word consequence does not mean it's a negative thing. That's a connotation standard
It's
in
the
our language.
reaction when you insert
Yeah.
when you have vaginal things happening between men and women. The consequence, the natural thing that will happen from that is a child. That's generally pretty much how the purpose of all procreation out there is for, unless you've somehow elevated it, perhaps even perverted it and said, no, the ultimate obligation is for the act itself, not its purpose. And its purpose can be disregarded because we want to protect people's, desire to worship the act. And I'm just trying to understand where your justification is to incorporate and indulge people worshiping the act when when it includes the sacrifice of human life in the process in order to do so, worshiping this modern world of sexual liberation, which is clearly coming at the cost of a deluge of the blood of the innocent. I'm trying to understand where you're working your moral compass through this.
And I asked Connor addressed the clarifying question because it sounds like Connor thought, because we used the word consequence, that we were implying something negative.
Well,
So
it was my word. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, but the word consequence isn't something negative. So I was very confused, Connor, when you opened up by saying you didn't want to make it a punishment and stuff. So I wanted to ask the clarifying question, but I do want to hear you out. So
I need to have an
please-
abortion debate. I
please
need
go
to have an
on.
actual, yeah.
Because Connor, what I'd like you to get to is how you justify it. And we haven't really given you a chance to get to it yet. But
Yeah, I'll be quiet.
yeah, I'd
I'll
like to
stop.
hear what that is so we can discuss it.
So, yeah, so like I was saying before, there's always cases where you have to weigh, moral outcomes. That's the word I'm looking for. So if we agree that people have certain rights, we can debate that, I guess. But like, I'd say some people have rights. So if we look at, we can't just say, well, you did this thing, so now you have to do this other thing. So sex doesn't mean you inherently, fuck, brain, Jesus Christ. Consent, that's the word I'm looking for. To having a child for 9 months, which actually, I was looking this up during the debate, brings an interesting question is, we're developing synthetic wombs, which could actually completely get rid of the need for abortions altogether. So that's kind of an interesting solution to the debate altogether, is that we're just getting rid of the need for it because we can just raise a child in a synthetic womb.
Yeah, that's a whole other rabbit hole that would be something to talk about later.
Yeah,
But
I
since
know,
the
it's just
audience,
an interesting aside.
yeah, it is
Really.
interesting. I don't want to get lost in it because it is interesting, but it's not the topic. So okay.
So when you're talking about, for example, the example used with the car crash and the kidney, so just because you did something and it consequence in somebody getting injured, that doesn't mean that you're inherently required to service abstain from your right to bodily autonomy. Just there's a word for that, but whatever it is. Oh shit, it's late. That's why I can't think.
Okay. So what is it that justifies taking human life?
So in the same way that just because you decided to get in the car that carries a risk with injuring yourself or somebody else, doesn't mean that you're inherently required to give up your bodily autonomy. Just like having sex as an inherent consequence, as we said, of having a child, doesn't mean you inherently have to give up your right to bodily autonomy.
Okay, but what about the part where someone's life is being taken? Where do you address that?
So if you hit somebody in your car and they're gonna die without your, I don't know, name an organ, whatever, kidney, a blood transfusion, I don't know, something along the, I don't know, any really works. That doesn't mean you're required to do that. So your bodily autonomy could be given,
Yeah,
so you
but
could say, okay, you can take this organ to save the person's life.
yeah, but that has nothing to do with shirking parental responsibility. It has nothing to do with killing a person. And I mean, it has nothing to do with natural biology that we all come from. And we can't really complain about the fact that it exists and that it's a part of the existence we're born into, you know?
Well, I mean, why can't you complain about the system you have to work within?
Well, I mean, you can complain as a matter of opinion, but not as a matter of reasonable.
Well, we've used science to change biological realities plenty of times. We've virtually gotten rid of certain diseases through science that just used to be biological realities.
What I'm saying is that no one owes the fact that they are here to whoever has the siren going, please mute yourself. So what was I saying? It was we don't no one owes the fact that they're here to driving on the road. Well, I mean, I guess they do. So let me back up some. You see, that's why this gets into all this weird philosophical stuff, right? But I'm still at the point of asking you where you get to the point of justifying taking a human life and where you get to the point of justifying shirking parental responsibility. And so
for the same reason that the person will die if you don't give up your organs to save them.
Okay, that was pointless. So
It's a bad argument.
yeah, just so you guys know, like there's standards to like talking to people and to discussing things, you know, and that's just a part of life. And if you can't meet those standards, then you know, I don't know what to say, because it's like Connor won't. Okay, Connor, I'm asking you if you will address the topic of justifying taking human life and shirking parental responsibility, not comparing it to something that has nothing to do with killing someone and nothing to do with parental responsibility. Because if someone has a medical need for a kidney, no one's killing them by not giving them a kidney. We do not consider a lack of action an act of killing. So
well, unless your direct actions is the cause for them dying.
no, I'm not asking you to keep discussing the same argument that you have as your pet argument or whatever. I'm asking you to address the life that is being taken and the parental responsibilities that are being shirked. I mean, whatever your words are to address them, but I'm asking you to address those two things.
Well, I am just like if there's a specific issue with the comparison.
Well, no,
that's
you can
fine,
explain.
but-
You can explain how it addresses it. Then, if that's how you're addressing it, then actually explain it, because.
Well, I did. But when I clarified it, you were unhappy, so I can explain it a different way. So
You didn't say anything about justifying taking life.
Connor, if I may, even a couple people in chat, including me and probably a couple other people in this room, thought that your response was basically just rambling. It didn't. I don't really catch anything at any point you were trying to make.
Well, if I may, Smokey, I'm on the verge of kicking Connor out, and I'm just doing it the way that I'm doing it, because
all right, I'll yield.
Connor, seriously, you didn't use any words about taking life is okay for this reason or anything like that. You didn't say any words about they are not parentally responsible for this reason. You just figured that somehow what you said implies something about that, because you think we all have your argument in our head already, but we don't. We're waiting for you to say it so that it becomes in our head. And so I would like you to address, let's go one at a time, parental responsibility.
okay, we can swap topics. That's fine. So what's your question about parental responsibility? Why you can shirk it?
Nicholas, may I? And let me just interject, and you can see if this helps kind of direct.
Smokey. At this point, I give up on him. Say what you'd like.
Okay, Connor, can I ask you? Let's try to maybe get this down to a little bit of a bare bones type of perspective here. Can you name for me the scenarios you find it acceptable to eliminate the child inside a woman? Is it just whenever she chooses, or is there like a threshold that you have a limitation to where you would say it's amoral, or moral? And what I mean to say, I guess, in a bare bones type of way, do you find it acceptable for it to be used simply as birth control, or does there have to be something extenuating beyond simply the woman's convenience?
I don't know if I'm fully sold on any single like if somebody just comes in and says, I want an abortion because I want to kill my kid. I don't think I'm
Yeah,
completely
no,
supportive of
no.
that.
Well, no one really tends to say that. Usually, if
That's
they're
why
going to go
I'm
have an abortion,
clarifying that
you
I'm
know,
not 100% on board with every case.
okay, well, yeah,
Smokey, I
thank
appreciate
you.
you, but Connor is too much a waste of time, no
I
matter what
agree.
conversation we're trying to have with him.
In fact, I was just about to say the same
And if
thing.
I remember
That was
right, Nathan
dodgy
is
and,
sorry to talk over you, brother. Sorry about that.
No.
If I remember right, Nathan is good to talk to. So even though this is a very passionate topic and he's gonna say evil things, let's try to be very cordial with Nathan, because I think you may be able to give us a good discussion we're
Well,
looking for.
yeah,
I
that's fine.
appreciate that.
I don't think Nathan knows what a fetus is, but yeah, let's go ahead and see what he has to say.
Well, I want to say something about the fetus thing that you guys were talking about. Real quick, because the word fetus is child in Latin, unless it's baby, but I'm pretty sure it's child.
Small child. Yeah.
What?
Small child.
Yeah,
In
or
Latin.
offspring. Yeah.
Right.
And so the whole thing is that they wanted a word to. They wanted it. Well, I'm talking for a second here, Nathan. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so they wanted a word to call it inside the womb that gives it its own word. So they called it a small child, but with a word that's its own word, so that when they're talking, people know what's being said. But they chose the word small child, and so and we've never found any evidence that that's not true. So when it comes to, we say the word fetus means child, and you're saying like means specifically in this case. Well, I mean, it means a small child in the womb, because I will grant you, yeah, they chose a special word so that people would know what was being said, you know? So it means both, a small child in the womb. So, okay, Nathan, go ahead and maybe start a discussion with Smokey, I think. Or, well, Presbyterian just came in. Okay, let's let
How are y'all doing
Presbyterian
tonight,
introduce-
boys?
Let's let Presbyterian speak a little piece first, Nathan, because once you get going, it's going to be open discussion. And yeah, so go ahead real quick, Presbyterian. Shalom, brother.
Shalom, shalom, Jerusalem. I thought I would come on since I saw everyone was here. Praise. Gavin was in here until just a moment ago. Smokey, you, JIL, etc., etc. By the way, JIL, Daniel that hijacked your stream I was last on decided to come and leave his love on my channel. Did you see that?
Oh no! I saw the message. Yeah, that was pretty bad.
Yeah, but you know, I'm a heretic. It's crazy stuff, man.
Pray for Daniel.
Huh?
Pray for Daniel. I said, if you don't know who Daniel is,
Oh yeah,
with the Wolverine avatar or whatever.
he's some kind of weirdo Pentecostal. I don't know exactly what. I've tried to ask him for a year straight if he affirms the word of faith, and he halfway answered that tonight. But either way, that's a different subject.
Yeah.
Okay, and did you have any thoughts you wanted to share on the topic?
Well, I would simply state that I thank God that my mother didn't abort me when I was premature. She certainly had the ability to do it. She certainly was told it was an option. But her position was that I am not going to terminate the life of my son, even though my husband has left me and abandoned me while I'm very pregnant with a disabled baby. Now, I fail to see the argument of abort the kid under any circumstances. I mean, frankly, the government that has the right to regulate marriage should not also have the right to regulate the womb. However, it looks like Nicholas, or not Nicholas, Network, whoever he was that was in here just now, he's gone. He left.
Yeah. Oh, he came right back.
No, he's back.
Yeah, and automatically you put him in without me clicking it. That's interesting.
Weird.
But Yeah, but speaking of that, I do want to make our introduction thoughts pretty quick because Nathan's waiting to get a conversation going. So, Chris Keith, hello, brother. Would you
Hello,
like
can you hear
to,
me? Yeah. Is my mic working? Is this mic working okay?
You're good, brother.
We hear
Okay.
you.
let me ask you
I
this:
switch-
would you rather have We do hear you well. Would you
Okay.
rather have an introduction now, or would you rather be the first one to respond to Nathan artwork?
I probably just got in, so I mean, I'll just do an introduction, I guess. I followed the debate. It was a little befuddling to me that they had, like what Smokey was saying, they had a. I won't go into that. Let's just say I found it interesting while we were doing that, while the debate was going on. I did a little Google and I didn't know that the number of people waiting to the statistics. You know, they can't get exact number, of course, but the statistics on the people waiting to adopt is like 36 to 1 or 36 couples for every one abortion. So I mean, you know, that kind of blew me away there. So that we might want to talk about that in the when we have the discussion, and maybe I didn't hear it addressed, and I wish they would address the victims of the unborn the Unborn Victims of Violence Act. So maybe we'll talk about that. But hello to everybody in the room, and I'll just let the discussion flow, and we'll go from there.
Sure. And by the way, quick thing that I wanted to say to Gavin too, especially since he's here in the room, is I would say, Gavin, seriously, at this point, don't even bother with tweaker of sound. Like, because I think he's wasted so much of our time so many times before, and he just disappears. He's irresponsible. He can't keep debates. He runs away from debates. He forgets about debates. He's just a degenerate garbage can. I think he's a waste of time. He doesn't ever even bring any decent arguments anyway. He always gets embarrassed when he opens his moron mouth. So my recommendation to you is just find a better debate partner. Just don't even bother.
Roger that.
Yeah,
All
if
right.
if I may make a point really quick. See, the nature of abortion. If you look over history, you have pagan religions that they practice this type of savagery, and it's been recognized as savagery through the Canaanites and through other things. So, I wonder if we should start bringing that up to abortion practitioners or people that support abortion, is point out that they're tantamount with these other pagan, savage religions. I think maybe that's a point that needs to be made as well.
Amen, brother. Amen, praise.
Yeah, I do
Yeah,
agree.
the point
And
is
then,
that it's equal to all that stuff. Yeah.
And
That's
okay,
a
Nathan
that's a
Artwork.
great point, Praise. That's a very
Nathan,
great point.
Hello.
All right,
Yeah,
should we let Nathan chime in finally, or what?
Yeah, I don't know if he didn't hear me. If other people are talking, Nathan.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we hear you now. I didn't think to tell you you're on mute. I'm
Oh.
not very good. I'm not very good at giving people that heads up yet, but I was about
Okay.
to. So I'm learning. So
Right.
do you want to introduce yourself real quick to the audience and what perspective you're going to give, and maybe say what you want to say for the other side, since it's been pretty much one-sided so far in this room.
That's true. And you know, my opinion won't be able to change any of you guys' mind or anything like that. I just give my opinion on the tape. And as you know, Nicholas, like I said before, I was a Christian for a long time. And I was a literal Christian. I took the Bible as literal words, and now I'm an atheist. Because when you try to put the Bible literally and compare it to reality, it doesn't compare. And you have to, you know, pick and choose which parts you want to accept and which parts you want to decline. But unlike the debaters tonight, I guess you would say I was a practitioner of abortion. You know, when I was married, my first marriage, when I was a Christian, I was young, dumb, and I thought that just what the Bible said, you get married to the person you want to give yourself to, you know? And that's what I did.
Yeah.
And my wife was pregnant, and we were not ready at that point. Financially, mentally, we were young. So we made a decision and we had an abortion. And not once did I thought that I was a murderer. And I was a Christian. Not once. And I think that that act of abortion made my life better. And I think that other people should have that option as well too. If they feel they're not ready or for any reason, it's their own choice. That's my opinion.
Okay, and then I think that comes across as a powerful opinion, so it's possible that some. Now, what I don't want to discuss, guys, is his overall view that Christianity is false. That would just be way too big a sidetrack. So, Nathan was telling us what his perspective is, but regarding what he just said, that he has benefited from abortion as not the one who was killed, but the one who didn't have to deal with the one who was killed. Yeah, let me first ask you about it, Nathan. So that's the way I see it, right? Like you're saying you benefited as the one who was killed, and you want other people to also benefit from killing their own children. That's what I hear.
But I'm not saying it. I'm not saying. I don't think of it as an act of killing the child. When I think of a child, I think of a born baby.
Why should we care how you think about it?
Well, let's back up real quick. Since Nathan's the only person we have to talk to, and we know he's a cordial talker, let's ask about why you would define a child that way, or why we think differently. So first, Nathan, why don't you say? Did you just say that only a child that is born is what you think of as a child? Is that
No, I think up to a certain amount of weeks. Let's say about I don't know. I don't know how many months the fetus supposed to be for you to legally abort a child. I don't remember. It was a while ago, but it's a certain amount of months or weeks that the fetus is mature enough to be considered.
Well, what about once it looks like a little human totally?
I go by what the doctor says is the right.
Well,
I guess the
doctors,
period.
it's a philosophical statement as to when personhood begins, or there's a scientific moment at conception. So if you're going to say that you go by science, your only option's conception. Otherwise, you have to step into philosophy and try to justify a moment other than conception. And I'm going to screen share what I have here too, once I get through fumbling.
Could I jump in, Nicholas, with one question? Could I jump in with one question?
Next, but not just yet. So Nathan, yeah, what about when they look like a little child?
It depends on the period. I think it's, let's say, 3 months. Give or take 3 months. Anything after 3 months, I would consider a little bit immoral on you.
Wait.
Terminating the child.
Oh my God.
Wait. Hold on, guys. I don't just want a number. I want something that correlates with why. So, Nathan, I'd like something that I can work with. I can't work with an arbitrary number because then that's just arbitrary. It has nothing behind it. And that's not worth listening to. So I need a why with it. And if the why, so I need a why. Why would it be 3 months?
Because the fetus is more developed. I guess.
But why specifically 3 months? It sounds like you don't know that much about fetal development. So if I know your why, I can help you pinpoint the right time. But I need you to be honest with me. If this is motivated by an honesty, I need your honest why. And then
I think it's more in the development process. I think it's more in the development process of the fetus. I don't know the specific number or the specific, I guess, period of when.
Well, if I may interrupt real quick, can you give me like a description of what would be the right time, like a description, so I get an idea of where you're coming from.
I don't know. To tell you the truth, I don't. I never thought about it like that.
It's
Okay,
whatever.
well, we're about to look at it like that. So check this out, and let me see if I can zoom in. Okay, that should be pretty big. Oh, it's not really doing the same thing on your screen as it's doing on my screen.
I can zoom in.
Interesting. Yeah, you guys can see it, but well, it's big enough. So to me, I mean,
That's just 12 weeks then.
so you're looking at it bigger than I am because you can see it that good, huh?
Yeah.
Let me see, but oh, so you're okay with killing a human that looks like this with a head, eyes, nose, and 4 limbs? I mean, that little baby. Here.
Yes, I want to say human.
Well, human is a fact, so I'm not going to really give you space to debate that. But if you want to say you wouldn't say baby, but right here, this little baby, and it's got like a weird little tail thing because it's just forming, and that tail is going to become it's what do they call that? You know, your tailbone, which you need to hold your body.
Sacrum.
Your coccyx.
Sacrum, Nicholas. Coccyx, yeah.
Coccyx,
Sacrum
yeah.
coccyx.
But and this even says 7.5 weeks. Now, I mean, that's just to discuss your perspective because personally, I'm not drawing a line at weeks, so I don't want to like give the impression like that's what I'm personally talking about. But yeah, well, let me see. So you said that 12 weeks is when you'd wait?
Yep.
So then okay, let me pull up another image then. Oh, I like this one. Oh, they're beautiful. Oh, wow. Okay, I don't know if that's on anyone else's screen yet. Let me see what's going on here. Look at these. I don't know if they're guys or girls, and I don't think they're real, or maybe they are, or I don't. They have models like this at models of them at the Ark Museum in Kentucky. But yeah, even this little 8-week one here on the left. Okay, so this 11-week one and this 10 and 9 and 8-week one. I mean, you know, human life is sacred, right? We don't murder each other, and then babies are sacred, and even animals are special and stuff, you know? I mean, just look at this. We were all this. So I don't know, Nathan.
Wow.
Nathan, what do you have to say at this point, Nathan?
Like I said, I think I look at human life as sacred, right? I do, but the process, I guess, the fetus, I don't look at it as sacred as an actual human that's independent. I know it's wrong to say, but it is a difference I guess in my beliefs, it's a difference.
We have to pause there. You just said you know it's wrong to say. I mean, is that the word you're standing with, or what?
I guess because I'm answering your question, I'm using the verbiage what you're using. So, you know, when you put it like that, it does sound wrong. So,
Well, the question is though, do you think it is wrong?
like I said, no, I don't think it's wrong.
Yeah, because when you said you know it's wrong to say, I mean,
like when you say
is that
life is.
Well, go ahead.
No, I said when you say life is precious, and this is a life, and you're gonna take that life away because you know it's a human. When you put it like that, you making it sound like it's wrong, and that's why I was saying I know it sounds wrong when you put it like that. I was just using the same verbiage you were using.
Can I have my question, Nicholas?
Yeah, go ahead. And well,
Yeah, it's
I don't
just
know what
short.
these are, so I'll take them down. I don't know if they're real people or not. So I'm going to take them
Yes.
down, but that's making an important point, and they're cute.
It's just short. Nathan, when you found out, or you and your wife found out that she was pregnant, this was a couple of times she had abortions. Is that right?
No, one time.
Only one time. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So from the time you found out, you and your wife found out she was pregnant, to the time that you took her to the clinic to terminate the pregnancy, did you have any sense of self-responsibility?
Of course, yeah. We felt it was the leaving the hospital afterwards or leaving the clinic afterwards. It was a long, silent drive. We felt like we made a mistake in some ways too, because it was a big decision.
But wait, you said you didn't feel like it was murder, which meant you didn't feel like it was wrong. So why would you feel that way driving home from the hospital, that it was some sort of weighty decision? If it was just a clump of cells that you were eradicating, why did you feel anything about it at all?
I didn't felt like it was murder. Like the act of murder, killing someone, because I think of an individual person as a person. So I didn't think of terminating the pregnancy as murdering an individual. I didn't look at it like that.
Okay, well, what did you look at it as you were having that heavy emotional feeling driving home from the hospital? What did it feel like?
I guess how society she was pregnant. You're supposed to look at pregnancy as a gift from God. Because like I said, I was a Christian at the time. We was looking at it as a gift of God, and we terminated our blessing. So that's how we felt on the way back, and it was a long, silent drive back home. That's how we looked at it. Not in the sense of murdering a person.
So just murdering a blessing.
Not murder, terminating.
Terminated a blessing that God had given.
That's how I thought of it as.
And what would have made
and
it a blessing? What would have made it a blessing? What makes it a blessing?
I would like how any Christian look at something.
Well, yeah, but Christians don't look at children as a blessing because they're told to look at children are a blessing. So I don't know if you're making a lot of sense to me right now. What is it in your mindset at that time that made you see it as a blessing? Because you said,
because I believe
you felt a weight because it was we were terminating a blessing from God. So what would make it a blessing to you? Or were you just taking it, well, the church told us it's a blessing, so that's just what we believe?
No, like the gift of life in my worldview at that time was a blessing from God. God gave us this opportunity to have this child. That's how I felt it.
Wait,
at that time.
Why did you guys make that decision? I'm sorry if you already said. I'm kind of producing at the same time.
Yeah, we were young and we were not ready. Financially, mentally, we were not ready.
Okay, and just for context, because I think it is a different story depending on how old you were. So how young is young?
I was 21 and my wife was 19.
Okay. So okay, well go ahead, Smokey. I don't want to totally interrupt.
Well, no, it's just it like some of it isn't what I'm getting here is that he just kind of decides what a life is based upon what he feels. And I think what we can do is we can convince ourselves of just about anything to try to avoid guilt. And the guilt that we might want to try to avoid for just brutally slaughtering our own offspring would probably be pretty strong. So I think the desire to try to find ways to morally justify that personally would probably be a pretty wide spectrum. And I think Nathan probably not really wanting to be able to specify exactly when he thinks it's a life is kind of part of that problem, because I think he would kind of infinitely want to take the stance he's taken to give him that emotional buffer from possibly admitting the fact that he slaughtered his own child. I think possibly.
But why you have to use the word slaughter?
Well,
Like you
because that's
use
what it
these
was.
words like these
Because that's what
words
it
to
was. Yeah, it was. It
get
was.
a negative. No,
It was
but it
slaughter.
isn't though. Do you know the process isn't just you
It
put your
was,
baby in the blender.
what happened, Nathan, is
They
that
give you
a tiny
the
baby.
process
Hold on,
is
Nathan.
There was a tiny baby that had your features and your wife's features, and it would have grown up to look up to you, to look for you for moral guidance, to look to you for support, to rely upon you. It would have been part of a shadow of your legacy. And instead of embracing that because of your defunct, amoral, disgusting compass, which by the way, if you had that disgusting moral compass when you were a Christian, I would doubt whether you were ever actually a Christian. I think you were just one of these culturalized Christians that was kind of raised to be told that you are and never really thought about what you believed. Because if you didn't even have a truly emotional angst, a conscious like dig in your heart at going to a clinic to slaughter your own child, there was probably something wrong with you spiritually and in your heart. So I would not think by this story, if you were willing to do this while you were a Christian, that you were ever actually a Christian whatsoever. Because if you did not experience the type of emotional, heartbreaking angst that you should have felt in that moment, there's no chance you've ever had any connection to the Holy Spirit whatsoever. Zero chance. Zero. And you, unfortunately, have found ways to work around in your mind through mental gymnastics to ignore the fact that you are a disgusting moral monster.
Can I talk?
You need to repent. And you can talk, yeah, but you need to repent.
Okay. So, like, I guess I'm the only one who's went through this experience. I know you have you.
Yeah.
So you've repented for
I'm
your
not going
sins,
to
I
talk
guess.
about my personal story on this because I'm not the one that's brought it up. We're talking about what you've revealed, okay?
Yeah, but I'm being honest here, so you can be honest too.
I am being honest. I think it's disgusting, amoral, and a garbage decision to make. And the fact that you can't find any
But
objective standard to justify your decision shows that you're just trying to hide from what you know is the truth, that this is disgusting and it shouldn't be condoned. And your only reason to condone it is to try to validate yourself so that you don't feel as horrible as you actually are. It's the only reason you even argue against it, because you don't have a good argument.
no, I'm not. I'm arguing against it because it is beneficial to certain people as well too. And if you want to be honest as well too, you said that you have even came to the same point as I came to, so you should at least understand where I'm
That's
coming
not what
from.
I
Because
said. That's not what I
so
said.
I just asked you if you went through the
You're
same
trying
process.
see here's what you want to do. See, this is your same
I know
game.
I was asking. Maybe I misheard you.
Ladies and
I thought you
gentlemen,
said yes.
can I point out that he is validating the exact point I made? See, what he wants to do now, he's desperate to try to find someone else in the room who went through something similar, who made a similar decision as him, so that he can yet again try to justify in his mind that he's not as gross as he is. This is what they all do. This is what even the people in the debate tonight seek to do, is to look at all the other people and judge it on a curve.
Yeah, let's step back for a minute and see if we can hear more from Nathan. And
But I'm not doing
if
that.
you were to close that, Nathan, then
I thought he
sort of
said the
will.
yes when I asked him. I thought he said yes, but maybe I misheard. So that's all.
You asked if I'd
Don't-
been in a similar situation or had a similar situation around me, to which I responded in the positive, but I did not give you all the details. You assumed so that you could try to
because
take a desperate grab at justifying
No,
yourself. Yes,
I was no, I wasn't. I wasn't looking for.
There's
a
no other
desperate
reason
grab.
to talk about me, Nathan, other than your desperate grab to justify yourself. So let's talk about you, since that's the point on topic.
Okay, let's talk about me. Like I said, it benefited me. It benefited my ex-wife at the time, and because of that situation, I'm able to talk to you guys now. Maybe it's a blessing from God because.
No
Maybe
way.
it's a blessing from God because let me finish what I said. Let me finish this one thing I was saying. Maybe.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. when you first said that you were young and dumb, and we know the end of that saying, but I'm not going to repeat it.
Yeah.
I originally thought, now this wouldn't be an excuse either, that you were speaking about in the teens. You said you were 21. Did you not have a job?
Okay, guys,
Yeah,
I
I did
really
have a
want to
job.
get
So what was the problem with raising the child? 21 and 19 seems like a reasonable.
I had no life experience. I grew up in the church, and I didn't have any like. I was a mama's boy at the time as well too, and
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, I didn't have any life experience around that time. So yeah, when I was ready to have a child, when me and my ex-wife was ready to have a child, we had a child after that. But around that time, we both were young, inexperienced about life. She was finishing a college degree. I was work. It was so many things.
Yeah. I need to get my PhD. That seems to be one of the reasons that are given.
Nathan, you did say that it was the right thing for you and your ex-wife to do, because I was wondering if you were still married to her. It was the right thing to do for your ex-wife and yourself because it benefited the both of you, correct? Right. Now, here's a problem. Here's a problem with the pregnancy. There's 3 humans involved in the pregnancy: the mum, the dad, and the baby. How do you think killing your baby benefited your baby?
I didn't look at it as a baby. I think when I think of a baby, I think of a born baby. You know, if you specify the unborn baby, I don't think the unborn baby even had the right mind or idea of what was going on to even know what was happening.
Do you think it had a spirit and a soul?
Then, no, I didn't think about that either. I didn't think it had a spirit and a soul.
Wait, I thought you were a Christian when you said you had the procedure.
Yeah, and I'm being honest. I didn't ever look at it like that until you said that. I never thought about it.
I think I
spirit
already
and the soul.
established. I think I already established he wasn't actually a Christian. I think I already established that, right?
I have a question, if I may ask it. You've described, Nathan, a grief that you felt in the car. I've lost most of my family either through death or through their premature demise, etc. Believe me, I get it. Would you describe the loss that you felt in a similar fashion as to losing someone like, say, an aunt or an uncle?
No, it wasn't like that. Maybe my ex-wife felt that way because she was the more emotional one, but to me, I didn't feel that way.
Nathan?
Yeah, I mean, right now I have like butterflies in my stomach right now just hearing about this. So how you didn't really have emotions at the time sounds sociopathic to me.
Nathan, can I ask a quick question? How do you know?
Hold on 1 second, because I just said just in case he wants to respond, because I said it sounds sociopathic.
That's
okay.
That's pretty much exactly what I was going to kind of confirm. I was actually going to go further. I was going to go ahead and say it was psychopathic, actually, because it actually includes the irrelevance of human life. So I was actually going to take it a step further.
But it's your opinion on what is the human life.
Nathan, how do you know you're not a psychopath? How do you know? Because basically all you've done is say, I don't see it as a life. I don't see it as wrong. I don't think it's wrong. So how do you know you're just not a psychopath to your own children? How do you know?
I have a child right there. I have a son. You know, you could talk to people. They could justify and tell you that I'm not a psychopath. I don't know what type of question that is. How do you know you're not a psychopath?
Are you well, you seem like a psychopath to an unborn child. So I'm just wondering, like, because you don't seem to have a good differentiation or reason why. You even admit you have an emotional angst, to the eradication of that human life on the way home from the hospital. So I guess, like, do you have some sort of psychopathic disconnection to not be able to see like where it is? Like you can't like actually define why?
Okay, well,
Yeah,
I wanted
no,
you
I
to
don't.
know.
And the thing is,
I wanted you to know what it looked like to us, Nathan Artwork. But there is a question I want to ask, and that's how about justification? Well, first let's discuss that it's a parental responsibility, right? So what about the fact that as the parents to the child, you did not take responsibility and the child died? So what's your perspective on the parental responsibility for that child?
It was a unborn child, or a born child.
Your child that you killed. I'm not talking hypothetically.
Like I said, like if it was an unborn child.
That you made.
Okay,
Yes,
so
that
you're
was in
saying,
process of becoming a child.
A process
okay,
you
And
started.
well, hold
yeah,
on,
we
gentlemen,
and I
because
stopped
I'll
the
accept
process. That's
Okay.
that
so
I
I'll
stopped the
accept that
process.
as I'll accept that as your response to there was no parental responsibility because you're saying it was not a child yet. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then the other question
Wow.
is how about justifying the taking of human life? Because as far as I know, we only justify that in the case of murder being avenged by law with murder for the good of society. Not with murder for the good of murder being avenged by killing the murderer for the good of society, right? That's the only time we justify killing a human ever. So I'm wondering how
I
you
don't
justify it in this case.
I don't justify that as well either. But
Well, I'm
and
not
killing another.
hypothetically. I'm talking about the case that because it was not a child yet, but it was a human that you
Oh.
guys chose to have killed, and you. So I'm asking how you justify the killing of that human because I'm a human too, and we're all humans, and I speak up for humans. I'm an advocate for humans, especially defenseless
I think
ones. So
I
I'm
think it was
asking.
becoming a human. I don't look at it as a human. I think it was on the verge
Well,
of
it was
becoming
a
a
human,
human.
There,
Nathan.
there
We're not going to
again,
argue
that
about that.
human.
No, hold on, guys. I don't want to talk over each other. It was a human, so we're not arguing about that. So I mean, if you don't care that it was human because it wasn't a child yet, then or are you going to
This isn't getting anywhere.
are you going to insist on denying that it's a human?
This isn't getting anywhere.
Well,
Nicholas, if you get a second, I might be able to bring this
guys,
around.
Guys, stop! I'm just establishing 2 points. Just give me a minute. So, like I said, okay. So you say it's not human. Are you insisting that they're not human yet?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's your justification for claiming that that is not a human life form when
Because your comparisons.
well,
When
human,
you compare,
right? Human is a species. So
yeah, and when you compare yourself as a human to an unborn baby and saying that's a human too, like you put in you as a mature human compared to an unborn that's in the process of becoming to what you are. You're trying to compare. I think it's not equivalent on the comparison of what you're trying to make when you
well, I'm
said
not
I am a human and this is a human too.
okay.
Like we are
So
humans, but you're not on the same level.
okay, let's stop for a second. Can we use the word person for what you're talking about because those are humans. That's a scientific fact. So are we saying now we're talking about personhood then? Can we use that word? So you're saying that they're not a person yet, and so
Exactly.
then how do
Yeah.
you justify that they're not? Let's just say, how do you justify that they're not worthy of the right to life as other human life are?
They're not independent. They're in the womb. They have no say on what's gonna happen to them at all. And in actual reality, like the mother can do whatever she wants.
Okay,
And
let's
just
slow
being
down.
honest, you talking about food. If the mother decides to do drugs, I'm just throwing
The
out some
slave
things. And
argument.
that
Slave argument.
individual
Yeah.
that's inside the
Yeah,
child doesn't have
that's
a
the
will
slave.
or
That's the slave argument. That's the you're on my land. I can do with you whatever I want. I think that's kind of gross.
No, that's not the slave argument
Yeah.
because it's no because
The
Well,
baby's inside the womb. The baby's inside the womb, and she can treat it however she wants, whether it's a life or not. And I don't
and I'm
accept
not
that
sure if you
argument.
know what you said.
but slave, you're purchasing an
Give me
individual. It's a big difference.
Nathan,
it's an
just give me one moment, please, because I'm not sure if you know what you said. You said that the human in the womb has no say.
That is true.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah,
go.
but
If we want to be honest, that is true.
Someone with a gun can take away your say, so that's not a justification. So do you
See, the
not have it?
equivalency, that's not the same though. The comparison you're making is not the same.
Can I ask one question, Nathan? I
Lazy.
don't want to overstep nobody here, but
This
Go
is
ahead.
have you ever heard of the Unborn Victims of Violence Act? Pretty simply, it's just like a lot of states. It's actually federal.
No.
That if you kill a mother, let's say if somebody kills a mother that is pregnant, they can be charged with also a crime of killing that unborn baby. Did you know that?
Yes, I heard that.
Okay, how do you feel
I've
about
heard
that?
that.
Do you feel they shouldn't be charged because it's not actually a person or baby, fetus, whatever you want to call it? Do you think that law is unjust?
I honestly, I do. I do think of it as unjust because
Oh, you do?
that mother, she made the decision to have that child, or she's gonna have that child, and that person took that right away from that mother. So I do.
Okay,
Can I?
but what do you? But just real quick, and I'm done. So you don't agree with that, but in the eyes of the law, it's taking a life. So I mean, you wouldn't describe it as any way, shape, or form a person or a life.
I get, I, when you put it like that, I do kind of see it like not as a life, but I see it as a becoming something, and that person stopped that
So
process.
maybe you're
So
saying like
they,
it's potential life is what you're trying to say, right? Is that what I'm getting
yeah,
at?
that's how I
Maybe.
look at it as potential life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Go
No
ahead,
such
guys.
thing.
Well, I was about to say, I mean,
Ryan.
potential life. Every fetus on the planet has half of its mother's and half of its father's chromosomes. It has DNA from both parents. This DNA is unique from the mother. That's basic biology 101.
Yeah. I know
Let
what
me
you
ask
mean.
you a question, Nathan Artwork. What if you are incorrect at drawing the line at whether or not that child is enough of like a baby, like a newborn baby is, that you don't want to kill them? I mean, what if you're incorrect about it? What if it's, you know, or do you feel certain and confident in your assessment of it?
Yeah, because it's my reality. So yeah, I do feel confident in that assessment of it. And
Okay, and
But
there's a
Nathan,
case that's been made about SLED. That is, these are the only 4 possible differences between a preborn and a born child. And one is size, and then it's level of development, and then man, I don't remember what this acronym is. Size. I thought I memorized it earlier today. Size, level of development. D is for
it'll come to you, Nicholas.
it's
Environment.
You got it. It's environment. Yes. So size, level of development, environment, or D is dependency. So their level
Yeah.
of dependency. So those are the only
Mhm.
4 possible differences. So there's for a child who is outside of the womb, being a smaller size does not mean we might be allowed to kill them. And being less developed doesn't make any difference that we might be allowed to kill them. And if they change from one environment to another, that never changes that we might be allowed to kill them. And then if they're more dependent or less dependent, that never has any effect on whether we're allowed to kill them. And so being inside the womb, having differences in size, level of development, environment, and level of dependence,
We
that's never a factor anywhere else. So if we're consistent, it's not a factor in the womb either.
we could probably make
Chris,
this a lot simpler
Keith,
by just.
what,
Hey, well, if Smokey wants to make it simple, please do.
I think we can just try and make it simpler by drawing a correlation to the child he already has. You know, when his did you want the child you have, Nathan? Did you
Yeah.
actually
Yep.
want so you
Yeah.
actually tried to
Plan.
conceive? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you conceived, you were excited, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, did you see it as, oh, good, I'm gonna have a baby, or oh, it's just a clump of cells?
No, at that time we would. I never looked at the fetus as a clump of cells. I never said that.
Well, but like,
But
did you look at? Hold on, I think you're missing what I'm saying here. You looked
I,
at the baby. You looked at the baby different at the same stage, based upon whether or not you wanted it.
mm-hmm.
Okay. do you get where I'm going here? You've basically drawn the line at life as to whether or not you want it. So I wonder, based upon your argumentation, and this is just, I'm probably gonna have to bow out after this because this is just like nails on a freaking chalkboard for me. This whole
Can I say one thing? I wasn't trying to make an argument. I was just trying to give you guys a story so you understand why so you can understand why some people might feel the need of pro-choice. I wasn't trying to argue this because it's your opinion at the end of the day, and who's right? No one's right in this situation. It's just your opinion more than anything.
No, there's a right, Nathan. You just don't want there to be, so that you don't have to feel bad, I think is what it is. Because what I'm saying, and what you haven't been paying attention to here now, is that you have made a decision to basically draw the line at life as to whether or not someone wants it. The moment you wanted that child, you valued it as a child. The time you had a child and you didn't want it, you didn't value it as a child. So really,
no, I didn't value it as a child until my son was actually born. You know, until I saw him.
Really?
Yeah. Yes.
Really?
You know, he was in there
kicking.
He was in there. He was in there. Yeah, when he was in there kicking and all that stuff, it was a different feeling. Anyone in here have any kids? Anyone in here have any kids?
Exactly.
Yeah,
you would know.
You know what? I'm done. This guy's clearly like
I'm just asking.
Or mentally ill or something. I'm. You know what? I'm not arguing with tinfoil hats anymore, guys. God bless.
Shalom, brother.
Nathan, I think we appreciate what you're saying.
There's one thing I got to ask Nathan real quick, because Nathan, or not ask him, but I want to clarify to him, because you were talking about, like, you wanted to come in here, give us the other perspective and stuff. Like, we're talking about the life and death of, what is it, hundreds of thousands of children a year? I'm pretty sure it is. Here, just only in the United States alone. So we're not talking about, let's understand each other. We're at the point of advocating. And our whole point is that, like, you're just talking feelings nonsense. And
but you giving me your feelings too, because to those people that are doing
Nathan, I'll tell you what, I really appreciate that you're a good conversationalist, and I appreciate that you were a good conversationalist here. But what you said doesn't hold up here, and it's like I have other stuff that we can like watch or something, or another atheist can come in. The link is in the description. I'll put it in the chat again, or not necessarily an atheist, but anyone who's pro murdering babies. But Nathan, I'll let you speak for yourself on your way out. But I just don't see us having beneficial discussion with you further. You know, we heard you out, and
by the way, we've given you scientific
I
facts.
just want to say, I try to look at. No, I appreciate it. I'm just trying to say I'm always open-minded to things, and I always try to look at it like that too. But I was hoping you guys would at least be open-minded and not closed-minded, to at least see why someone on the other side might feel that way. That's all I'm saying. But good conversations tonight, like always.
I don't think we're closed-minded, Nathan, but I do want you to keep coming back. I really do think that there's still hope for you to repent, and I think you're still searching. I really feel that in my heart. So please keep coming back.
Well said, Chris.
Yeah, I have a question for people like Nathan, if they're evolutionists. So what constitutes life in your evolutionary theory? And if it's, when the cell has a certain amount of carbohydrates or whatever, So, but doesn't that automatically affirm that babies are live? I mean, so it's even from the evolutionary paradigm, babies are live. So, what gives?
Yeah, there's just no defensible argument. They don't even want to deal with the science. Now it's just, well, it's just my opinion against yours. Well, we're not giving you just our opinion.
Okay, I have some good science on the topic, literally lined up right this second. I'm just gonna share that screen and we'll watch it and we'll have some discussion and stuff.
Yes, please do.
But before we start watching it, I also want to invite the chat to come in. Link is in the description. I'm about to put it in chat again. And yeah, I thank Nathan for his discussion. I do not thank Nathan for encouraging other people to enjoy the benefits of killing their children. We tried to see if there was justification. I didn't hear any. I don't think we were unfair about letting him say it if he had it. Oh, I got to share audio too for this one. Okay. So everyone's looking at Matt Frad and this woman, right? I should introduce them. So Matt, and so these, well, it doesn't have her name, and oh, well, it has her first name, Stephanie. Okay, so this is Matt Frad and Stephanie. Here we go.
What happens? How do we know that that's when life begins?
Yeah. So one of my favorite papers to
Look at the science for a moment.
Sure.
What happens? How do we know that that's when life begins?
Yes. So one of my favorite papers to reference on this is the scientific paper written by a physician and scientific researcher, Dr. Maureen Kondik, who wrote a paper called "When Does Human Life Begin?" And in that paper, she makes an amazing case for life beginning at fertilization and for life beginning at the beginning of fertilization, because
The beginning of the beginning.
the beginning of the beginning, because if you know anything about science, and this is where, again, you don't know who you're talking to. You could be speaking to a med student who will say to you, well, fertilization is a process that takes 24 to 48 hours, or whatever the case may be. So at what hour does life begin? Dr. Kondik makes the point that it literally begins at the beginning of that, let's say, 24-hour period. And she makes the case this way. She says, when scientists have a bunch of cells and they want to know, are these cells all the same type or are they different? She said, scientists look at two criteria. They look at cell composition and cell behavior. So in other words, what is it made up of? What does it do? And so she said, when you look at a sperm cell, what's its composition? The genetic material of the father. When you look at an egg, what's its composition? The genetic material of the mother. So already with sperm and egg, we know they're different cells because of composition. She said, now let's look at behavior. When a sperm is in existence and alive, it swims to find an egg and fertilize it. That's the behavior of a sperm. Seek out an egg and penetrate it. An egg, what is the behavior of an egg? It's to sit around and allow for penetration to occur. So by behavior, we can see the sperm cell and the egg cell are different from each other. By composition, they're different from each other, therefore different cells. So here's how that's relevant. Let's look at that criteria in light of the one-celled embryo or zygote. Is that embryo or zygote, same thing, zygote is the one-celled embryo, is that individual, that cell, different from the sperm and the egg by composition behavior? Yes, here's how we know. When you have the embryo, even before the chromosomes have intermingled, because that takes time. And so at the moment of sperm egg fusion, when you have the sperm's head, which has gone into the egg, you now in that entity have the composition of the mother and the father, the genetic material of both. The chromosomes haven't intermingled, but they're all contained in that one cell. So by composition, we know we're dealing with something different. Then let's look at behavior. If you look at one embryo, the moment a sperm has penetrated an egg and you have the embryo, if another sperm comes along, what happens? Is it allowed to penetrate?
I don't know. I guess not.
It can't, and it doesn't, because this zone is created around the embryo that prevents penetration from happening. Now, if that was the egg cell, it would allow penetration. If it was a sperm, it would be swimming around. So by virtue of looking at composition and behavior of the embryo, we see it's different from the sperm cell or the egg cell. So my point is, we know that something substantively new has come into existence that we didn't have prior to sperm egg fusion. And that new thing is the offspring, the next generation of the parents. And therefore, if we believe parents have responsibility to their children, since we have a new child genetically distinct from mom and dad, then we ought to protect that child from that point forward.
Brilliant.
Parents have a responsibility to their children, and we know we have the new individual at the moment of conception, so they should be held responsible from that moment forward. Now, that's the science without philosophy. So the thing is like, I asked two people for justification. They gave nothing of any sort of justification. And I would even say that we err on the side of caution if we're not sure. So even if neither side can justify it, we're talking about human life and death. We have to err on the side of caution. The burden of proof is on the other side. If the burden of proof is on pro-choice. I mean, I think it's fair to say the burden of proof is on pro-choice. If you're talking about life and death, then
That's
you have to err
fair.
on the side of caution. But to this topic, the new individual, parental responsibility, she described the science of the cell. What do y'all think?
You have to remember that the arguments from the progressives are not based in reason. They are demanding that we accept what they say, and if you don't, then insert superlative here. You're a bigot, you're idiotic, etc., etc., etc. They do not operate
right.
on a platform of rationality.
Well, yeah,
That
but
is true, Ryan.
rather than tell them that, I think I'd rather prove it so much that that they can't deny it.
Oh, I agree. But my point is that we have to remember you can't rationalize with these people. So you then have to deal with the obvious.
Oh, you
It's
mean
like
that
I said to it's like I said to Nathan, basic biology 101 that nearly everyone learned in primary and secondary school teaches us that a human is distinct from its parents because it lacks their DNA. It is an admixture of the DNA of the father and the mother. As much as I can't stand my evil father and don't speak to him anymore, hadn't spoke to him in like 8 or 9 years now, I can't deny I have his DNA. If he won't acknowledge that, and he's also willing to say that it would be wrong for, say, a man to strike a pregnant woman in the womb, causing her to miscarry, but an abortion is not wrong, then you can't really rationalize with someone like that. He admits it's wrong, but he doesn't want to apply it to himself.
That's a good
Well,
point that's a good point that Ryan is making, because Nicholas, I think it was Chris. Chris, you talked about the law in the US that prevents a pregnant woman being kicked repeatedly. Yeah, protects the unborn child, right? So
yes, sir.
And it's pretty much the same in New Zealand. I know it's the same in New Zealand because we have had the very rare case of a pregnant woman being kicked repeatedly and then miscarrying. The perpetrator then faces, I'm not sure if it's murder, but it's close. It's like second-degree murder, as you guys have got in the US. We'd call it manslaughter over here, but it's pretty serious.
Yeah, and he was talking about rationalizing. I mean, you have a group, a large group that get out and actively. This is what bothers me. To get out actively. One of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. It's blasphemy, and I seen a poster. It said, "The world would be better off if Jesus was aborted," and I mean that's like the most disgusting thing. Even if they, to offend somebody, I mean, they knew what they were saying. That is just so disgusting. The mindset of someone like that, they're not caring about the science. At that point, it's religious. You know what I mean? Their worldview means more to them than the science.
This actually comes to the point of for the whole world, you know, that the fallenness of the world and that the world is in sin. That like Nathan didn't seem to understand where we were coming from. I mean, he did when he said, you know, I know it's wrong to say, but yeah, I would say that that's not
Well,
a human or whatever. But he didn't understand, like, when we were thinking that it sounds sociopathic or psychopathic to us. And for those of you who are out there who are not Christian, you have to understand, like, this is for us, this is the difference, you know. And if it's not this category, if it's only a more subtle category, it still exists. But truth is the only thing that will save us, and Christ made truth obvious on the cross. And all that are of the truth hear his voice. And if you don't hear his voice, then you're not of the truth. And we want to offer him to all of you. But, you know, all this is why it's so serious. And it's this whole,
yeah,
the whole world.
you're right.
Well, it's this whole casual thing, right? That the world takes this so casually, even though it's the killing of children, the murder of children.
Nathan and Chris, did you catch? Sorry, Nicholas and Chris. Forgive me. Did you guys catch Nathan's response when Chris was laying out the legal ramifications of actually causing a developing child to be miscarried purposely by, you know, repeatedly kicking her in the stomach? Did you catch Nathan's response about that? Because that's law. That's law in the US as it is in New Zealand and Australia. But Nathan's response was,
I think it was I think the response was that it was wrong because the mother wanted the child.
Right. He said that it was the mother's decision to have the child, and that was what made it morally wrong, not that the mother actually was pregnant.
That was part of it. But he also said that he didn't think the law as Chris spelt out, he didn't think the law was right. He felt the law was wrong.
I asked him that. That's true.
If he was giving testimony, or if he was to defend himself in court, he'd be, as the British say, in a very sticky wicket. He would be in a very tight spot.
But isn't that a self-serving position or a self-serving worldview to have? To say,
well,
that the law.
I just want to point out real quick, Gavin, while you stay on topic, I just want to point this out real quick, that Nathan said that the child in the womb being killed is only an additional crime because the child is the mother's property, or his way of putting it was because the mother wants the child. So it's only the mother who is affected by the child's death and not the child themselves. And he's also saying that because he benefited from killing his child, he wants others to. And he's saying that because he would prefer to not define it until as a child until after birth, that's his definition, and he gave no justification. Now, I mean, he's only one person, so maybe we can go into the wider topic too. But I just wanted to point out all of that without justification. That's what I want to point out. No justification for it. So go ahead, Gavin, please.
Yeah, that's a great point, Nicholas. What a self-serving worldview you have if you're an atheist and you disagree with a law that protects an unborn child, that protects a developing child. You know, you disagree with a law that protects, you know, that most vulnerable human being. In a pregnancy, there's always three people involved. There's the mum, there's the dad, and there's the baby. But the baby always gets overlooked when we're talking about, well, we don't overlook it, but the pro-lifers do. The pro-lifers always overlook the baby who is completely innocent of anything.
Well, I think Kay actually if I remember right, Kay very directly addressed, she emphasized, yes, she did, that she sees preborn children as the most innocent and most unable to defend themselves, so the most in need of advocacy. And advocacy was not
Yeah.
her word, she used a word like protection or something like that, but advocacy is my preferred word. So, yeah, Kay did remember that in this debate, and I think since you're saying they often skip that because it's not politically correct, we can commend her for that, especially because
Yes,
she's coming from a
Yeah.
secular
I
worldview,
agree.
and
I agree,
hopefully we can
Nicholas.
hopefully we can
And
reach her with the
speak
gospel
I agree.
someday, you know,
and
because
speaking of the, I'm
if
sorry,
she
man.
has that if she has that truthfulness and honesty, that's exactly what it takes to reach her with the gospel. So we don't have to be aggressive or anything. Just if we get the chance to shine well and talk about the beauty of Christ, that's would probably
Amen,
go a long
brother.
way. We can talk about the beauty of Christ on this topic, you know, because remember Ned, I don't know how many of you remember this, but I made my boom video where he self-destructed, right, about this, that Ned had said that that he thinks abortion is terrible and that now that it's available, we can expect humanity to do it and have to grow out of that terrible atrocity. So he's waiting for humanity to grow out of it. But we grew out of it 2,000 years ago on the cross. And those of you who are not accepting Christ have the blood on your hands. And those of you who encourage a
Amen.
non-Christian world have the blood on your hands. Christ is the only solution. That's the fact.
I
That
don't
is
mean to butt
true.
in, but somebody keeps breathing into their microphone, and it's quite loud on my end. I don't know who's doing that, but I can definitely hear the breathing.
Is it myself when I'm talking?
No,
it's
it's
Yeah, that
someone else because it was going on while you were talking.
Okay,
do you
yeah,
hear it
let's
now?
just all try to keep muted when we're not talking, and then you also have to pay attention to make sure we hear you when you talk.
That might have been me, Ryan, but I've muted myself now.
Cool. And then
Speaking in the chat, I was in the chat, and there was a few people in there that I know were pro-choice, and I tried. I put a question out, and I think you'll get the rational ones. There are some rational ones that are pro-choice that you want to ask. Do you not believe that the less abortions that we can have is a good thing? And most of them will, the rational ones will say, yeah, we need to have the less abortions that we can, you know, need to teach better sex education, contraceptives, all this stuff. But they will agree with that. So once you can get into that point where they'll agree that the less is better, then you have to ask them, why is less better? You know what I mean? So, and then, but it gets to a point where you get them down so far, and then they'll still say, well, it's the mother's choice. And that, like, I believe it was, I can't remember who it was just saying that Gavin, I'm sorry, you're not addressing that there is a third part to the puzzle, and it's the unborn child. Where's their voice? You know what I mean? So less abortions is a good thing, and they will agree with that. But why is it a good thing? You know what I mean? And it's not just good because it's for the better, like they'll have a better life. Like Nathan was saying, he wasn't ready financially and all that. Really, it should be less is better because it's morally wrong, but they won't come to that conclusion. But that
hey guys,
is the conclusion. Go ahead.
I want to point this out real quick because I mean, one, we have to say, yeah, that is how we see it, and I don't just mean that's how I see it, but that's how it is. And this is what Smokey was talking about. You see, from our Lord Christ said that from the abundance of the heart come forth the words of the mouth. And this says, I guess I am a murderer now. And I'm not saying that he's admitting he's a murderer, but we see the motivation. Just like Smokey said, he does not want to think of himself as a murderer, and that's the motivation. And we didn't see philosophically motivated discussion. I tried to ask him for some kind of description of when would be the point to draw the line. And then I think later Nathan was drawing the line at birth, and I didn't even call him on switching that. But just I could be remembering wrong. I don't know. But the point is that motivation Smokey was talking about, and that's what makes this topic so hard. We all know people who are guilty of this. Maybe many of you have taken part in this, and we don't want to think of it as murder because we don't want to think of people as being guilty of murder. We need the cross of Christ. We need his salvation because we have made mistakes. The word sin means to miss the mark. And there's another context to that, the target that is life. And the only way to hit that target is to keep the law of God. And we have all fallen short. And so we miss the target of life. We do not live forever. As he told Adam, when you eat of that fruit, you will surely die. And through Adam, death came to every man. And many of you and many of the people we know have guilt in this. But let's be honest with the facts for the sake of humans, for the sake of these little children, you know? It's not about what we want to think about people, it's about the truth. And it's also about advocating for people that matter, that cannot advocate for themselves. So I gotta find how to get this off the screen.
Me and John talked about a little bit last night about think of all the unborn children. If you know, like if you think about all the ones that possibly all the geniuses, all the that we missed out on, just where we might be at if they were allowed to live. And yes, you can look on the other side, like there might be a lot of bad people in that too, but I mean, they were originally the intention was then for them to live, and because if you murder somebody, next day they were intended to live. So when you take that life, you've took out you've snuffed their life out, and it is hard. I mean I know Nathan probably doesn't want to look at himself as that, but it just like when we commit like anything, even in our heart, like Jesus said, if you even lust after a woman, we're guilty of that. So we're not passing judgment on you, Nathan. We're just saying you need to repent. You know what I mean? And realize that you were wrong, and it was as hard as it is to really come to terms with it. You were a part of murdering, a child, and that's hard to swallow. But you have to, and then you have to ask for mercy, forgiveness, and hopefully you can come back to Christ, because I think there is hope for Nathan. He's open-minded. He is honest, and even though we may not agree with his views, I think he was trying to be honest. I think what he was trying to say he viewed it as a potential life, which people do that. You justify sin, so maybe he is just justifying in his mind. But that's what we all do. Sometimes we justify sin instead of just admitting it and asking for forgiveness and mercy every day and repenting. And I yield.
Okay, and I want to address not this comment, just since we're talking about Nathan, I want to let him respond. And yeah, I would like Nathan to be able to be in here and give his 2 cents also, but I'm just worried we would just focus on arguing with him the whole time, and that came to the end of its beneficialness. So Nathan, if you want to come back in and hang out, if my brothers can keep from the temptation of us arguing with you, and you want to give another perspective while we talk, then that would be pretty good, because we came to the end of that argument being beneficial, and you weren't giving actual justification, and if you want to and the burden of proof is on the one who's not erring on the side of caution. So if we're
Furthermore, he also admitted that if a woman lost her fruit, if a woman was say struck with a pipe by some evil person that caused her to miscarry, thus that baby died, he would admit that is murder. If that is murder, but abortion is not murder, then we have a terrible double standard.
It is a double standard, and it's his opinion. He's already admitted that. So at least he's honest. So.
And in total, we've said a few different things about what his response to that was. Maybe he said all that, but I honestly haven't been able to catch everything. My mind's always a bit divided when I'm trying to be a good host too. I want to address this
I can imagine.
with Iron Chariots here real quick. Are babies born sinful? My answer is no. Because you also put it here. When you look at a newborn baby, do you say that baby is beautiful or sinful?
Well, a baby being physically appealing, though, doesn't have to do with its sinfulness.
Yeah, he doesn't understand how to read the Bible at all.
And the baby is born into a circumstance that it is going to miss the target of life. It is going to be a sinner. It is born into that circumstance. And so it's not that the baby is sinful. It's born into a sinful world. And as much as it's learning and it learns stuff on the level of sin, it is some of what it's going to learn, right? What they're going to learn right away will definitely be sin. And there's also the inclination of the flesh, which I don't think is sin in and of itself, but I think it manifests into sin in every human. Now, it's possible that in a heavenly kingdom where all the parents and all the culture and every single person was perfect, that children, they actually would not incline to learn sin because it's possible. But yeah, they begin in the flesh in a sinful world, and as soon as their flesh learns that sinful world, then sin comes up. So they're born into sin, but they're not born sinful. Now, I know that there's doctrines on this that disagree, so I'll let my brothers speak their mind on it too.
Well,
I was about to say Psalm 58 verse 3 is my response to that.
Well, I don't even know why we would waste time with Iron. He's a troll. Even if the baby was born butt ugly and full of sin, it would still not be a justification to murder it. So I don't even know why that comment.
You know, when he mentioned the beauty of newborn babies, and we're talking about advocating for babies. So even though Iron Chariot's a troll, I thought that this topic was fair enough to put in. You know, I mean,
yeah, the question kind of is fair enough. Yeah, he could have put it better. But yeah, it is.
The question is fair enough, but beautiful is not innocence.
Yeah, subjective too.
Well, again, even if the baby were innocent, he's doing. He's trying to play on original sin. He doesn't even understand what the doctrine teaches.
Well,
he's trying to play on that.
Oh yeah, that's right. Ultimately, what I think Iron Chariot was doing there was we're talking about how beautiful babies are and stuff, and he's trying to be like, you guys are contradicting yourselves, you know.
Well, no.
It's just that there's nuance and complexity to it, you know. So this is off topic, but if people want to say their answer to his question, I just don't want it to turn into the whole show. So
someone saying that needs to understand from Romans chapter 5 or Psalm 58 verse 3 or Ecclesiastes 9 verses 1 through 5. When we're talking about a baby being born sinful, we're not saying the baby is repugnant. It's not as if the child is regarded as this grotesque thing. We're talking about the nature into which Adam fell by his rebellion against God that has corporately fallen on us all because we were all in Adam's loins. We are the sons and daughters of Adam and Eve. That's what makes us humans.
Well, that's an excellent point, Presbyterian, that even for those who have the doctrine that you're born already in sin or sinning or sinful, then And really, we might be trying to just describe the same thing in different ways or whatever ultimately. But the point is, whatever the doctrine, like, I already told you, Iron Charioteer, I told you that the word sin means to miss the mark. Essentially, in English, it would be mistake. Now, that doesn't mean that sin is not breaking of God's law and that it doesn't end in death. Those things are still true. But the point is that God, whether Hebrew or Greek, in both languages, he chose the word miss the mark. So if he says, "You missed the mark, my son," that's a nice way to be spoken to by a father. And so you're being very inappropriate, acting like the idea of saying that someone is a sinner. It's saying that there's someone who makes mistakes, but it's saying that, like, that's who you are, you know? Like, I make mistakes.
You've
But
exposed the intense.
let me finish real quick. I make mistakes,
Sure,
but
sure.
I am new in Christ. So when I make a mistake, it's not me, but it's my flesh making the mistake. So what that means is I make mistakes, but it's not who I am. When I was a sinner, when I made mistakes, that was who I am, who I was. I was being myself, sinning, doing the wrong thing. But now I do the wrong thing far less. And when I do, it's not myself. I'm doing something outside of myself that I shouldn't do
Right.
in the flesh. And so that's, but yeah, sin is a gentle word, Iron Charioteer. So if we're using a gentle word about babies, they can still be beautiful, totally.
But isn't it interesting?
Again, we're not
Go ahead.
talking about this. Oh, go ahead, JIL.
I was just going to say, isn't it interesting that when the atheist has no argument from a secular or secular humanist perspective or science, they try to appeal to the Bible. They try to appeal to sin. They try to appeal to God killing babies. They try to appeal to the God of the Bible to justify their behaviors because they can't justify it from their own worldview, which is supposed to be from a scientific perspective. That's where we're supposed to be making our decisions from. The reason why it's illegal to punch you in the face is because I caused damage to your body, and there are certain things that happen as a result of my action, and whereby you need medical attention. That's why it's illegal.
Right.
That's the natural law. But they have to abandon that and now say, well, God did it too. So that's really what he's doing. That's where he's going.
Their argument is uttered nonsense. And if I may chime in, Psalm 58, verse 3 and 4. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they are born, speaking lies. Their poison is as the poison of a serpent. They are like the deaf adder that stoppeth her ear, which, verse 5, will not hearken to the voice of charmers, charming never so wisely. In Ecclesiastes 9, we read, beginning in verse 1, for this I considered in my heart even to declare all this, that the righteous and the wise and their works are in the hand of God. No man knoweth either love or hatred by all them that is before them. All things alike, all things come alike to all. There is one event to the righteous and to the wicked, to the good and to the clean, and to the unclean, to him that sacrificeth, and to him that sacrificeth not. As the good, so is the sinner, and he that sweareth, as he that feareth an oath. There is an evil among all things that are done under the sun. There is one event that happen, that there is one event unto all. Yea, also the heart of the sons of men is full of evil, and madness is in their heart while they live, after that they go to the dead. So my point to reply to that is, yes, the scriptures do say that we are born in sin. We are not speaking of the philosophical aesthetic of the beauty of a newborn child. Yes, of course, few things are as beautiful as a newborn child because it represents the epitome of design. It represents a machine that science, even to the present day, cannot create. It represents one of the most pure things you can imagine. But when we are speaking of its state, not just its being, but its state, it is fallen because of Adam's transgression. So yes,
I completely disagree with that. I think that's jumping the
is
gun
that
there.
praise?
Yeah.
Well, praise. Praise, if I may so say, you've fallen into Pelagianism, friend, and that's a very discomforting thing.
Okay, guys, hold on. This is an abortion after show. It's been off topic for too long. So I was saying, like, we can each say our piece about this doctrine, but then get back to the topic for the audience. It's not even an all
Well,
Christian audience.
that's what I was trying to do.
Ryan, to be fair, you've said a lot of piece on it, so I just want Praise to get to say what he has to say, and you can always talk to Praise about it another time, you know. But we're also on topic.
I'm just going to make a few short points. Ecclesiastes 7:29 says, "We were born upright. God created man upright." I think he's conflating a sinful reality or sinful world, not a metaphysical.
This is exactly what Ian was attempting to do, to start a debate on original sin. That's exactly what his intention was.
Well, maybe, yeah. So, hold on, Ryan. I said that I wasn't going to have Ryan respond because I was just saying we could each say a quick thing about this, right? Like, yeah, like for me, I wasn't trolled, but you guys let him troll you, you know? So we're done with this topic because, Praise, you started talking about Ryan, and I wasn't going to let Ryan respond, and that wasn't going to work because I'd have to let Ryan respond, and we'd be on this forever. So, yeah, I'm sorry that didn't go well, but we are going back to the topic of abortion right now.
Yeah, even if it is
Jesus Lord had it right.
I'll put on a
had
video.
it right, Jesus.
I'll put on a video if no one has anything to say on abortion, and then we can talk about the video clip, or someone can start
good, buddy.
talking about
it. Sure thing.
So, does anyone have anything to say that they want to say
no,
about?
I was just going to say Jesus is Lord had it right. He was trying. It was exactly what he was trying to do. You know, so we can go on.
Yeah,
go to the video.
I said that because it talked about babies being beautiful and stuff. We could, I wanted to address, and then we could say our piece on the doctrine real quick, you know. But we got to be careful with these guys because, yeah, you know, I mean, when we're here in public, this isn't only fun conversation. This is also like, you know, everyone else is investing their time too, not just us.
Sure. Go ahead.
So, I'll go to the beginning of this video. I don't remember exactly what it is, but I remember it's interesting. So let me get my screen share up. Boom, 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 boom. It's coming right up. Oh, I forgot to share audio though. So sorry, everybody. Just one more moment. Boom, 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 boom. Share audio. Okay.
I want to give you a quote from Hillary Clinton.
Oh boy, this should be fun.
Yeah, this came out after the Alabama laws and the Georgia heartbeat law.
Yes.
She tweeted this out, and I want to get your response. The abortion bans in Alabama, Georgia, Ohio, Kentucky, and Mississippi are appalling attacks on women's lives and fundamental freedoms. Women's rights are human rights. We will not go back. What say you to Hillary, who's obviously watching?
Yes, well, yes. Hello, Hillary. How are you? Yeah. My first response would be to say, if you believe in women's rights, when do those rights begin?
Oh.
What about the woman in the womb? What about the female fetus who's being targeted for sex-selective abortion in some communities and some countries around the world? So if we believe in women's rights, then those rights begin when you have a female, and a female begins at the moment of sperm egg fusion, the moment of fertilization, roughly 50% of the time, unless a male child is conceived. So
okay, I'm already ready to pause it there for some talk, right? Women's rights. So feminists who say they promote women's rights, but if a woman is still in the womb, they're too young to qualify to be a woman.
Yep.
Now, I mean, honestly, I may have a different view on like social priorities and priorities of what's healthiest for families and for individuals and stuff, right? So I have a different worldview than feminism quote does. But when it comes to women's rights, first wave feminism, a lot of second wave feminism, but not all of it, like I'm right there with it, you know? But like what I support of women's rights extends to young women all the way to conception.
Yeah, when you bring this topic up, you have to get into looking at like Planned Parenthood and how they're actively promoting abortion. You know what I mean? Like, I would say pushing.
Sorry, I'm so passionate. I'm sorry I interrupted you there. Because
No, go ahead.
half of everyone they kill is female. You know,
Right.
ultimately.
So yeah.
So,
So
I
yeah,
mean,
right off the bat, she's they always they don't want to talk about that. I've seen it on so many talk shows where they just immediately go gloss over that. They don't want to talk about that, and it's true, and that should the African American community should be upset about that. You know what I mean? Because that's their race, you know, and that is one instance where really, I mean, in my eyes, that is a form of racism. You know what I mean? You're trying to hold down a race by getting the mothers not to abort their children. So, you know, they need to be doing the opposite. You know what I mean? Trying to encourage these white women to have these babies, and definitely the fathers need to be the ones to step up, and they don't want to address that either. You know what I mean? That is a big problem in the we see. No, I don't want to get way off topic here. I'll stick it real keep this one little point, but the if you'll look, you know, a lot of the crime and stuff is directly, in my opinion, due to the black or the African American not having the father figure, you know, and that's backed up. That's backed up by tons of statistics. So go ahead. I'm sorry to go off on a tangent.
oh no, it's all holistic and cultural, and yeah, we see the contradiction that really is just about social leanings. You know, what like is natural based on where you've come with your friends and pop culture and you know the philosophy of the world that you've studied and stuff. So there's people who are like they say they're Black Lives Matter, but they're also pro-abortion and pro-Planned Parenthood, not
Mm-hmm.
understanding. You know, I mean, not understanding like the Democrats. The reason that the South is mostly Republican, if I look at the history, the big glaring reason that if a Southerner would not vote for a Democrat is because of decades of lynchings. That was their way. That was their unlawful mob rule, vigilante law enforcement for their race war. That was the Democrats.
Yep.
And so they lost all credibility in the South. I mean, that was a big deal. Those lynchings were a big deal. And BLM, I mean, I think they're downplaying the lynchings and they're upplaying a bunch of sissy complaints. And why? Because the lynchings were the Democrats, and the Democrats are the ones funding BLM. And Planned Parenthood was established for eugenic purposes, especially against minorities, especially against blacks, and women's rights and Black Lives Mattering begins at conception. So let's continue the video.
Therefore, what about the rights of women in the womb? And when she speaks about women's rights, again, it comes down to when a pregnant woman is pregnant, is it just her? Or do we now have not just a woman, but a mother? And that's the important thing, is a woman or a mother. And that's the key, is what do we, you know.
This all boils down to one question. What is the unborn?
Well, this is funny you should say that, because yes, it does. And I've spent my career saying it comes down to the question of when does life begin? And I did a debate a year ago at the University of Virginia, in Charlottesville, Virginia, the University of Virginia Law School. And I changed my strategy and I said, the question I want to ask us today is this: what do civil societies expect of parents? And when does parenthood begin? So we can ask the question, when does life begin? But let's actually talk about when does parenthood begin? Because if you look at news headlines about...
Okay, I like how she's switching to when parenthood begins.
Very savvy.
Hold on. Honesty Angel. Oh, wait. Honesty Angel gets one of these for this. I got this lined up somewhere. So I don't know what this is going to look like when I switch it, but we'll see. But, oh, it's what I work on with CJ. But, oh, I pulled up the wrong thing. Oh, this has its own thing. Okay, that's even easier. So, we've established that what she is killing is a human life in a house built just for it. But she's still this is like a sarcasm quote, has the right to kill this human even though she doesn't own them.
Well said, Honesty Angel.
So there we go. Boom. And then yeah, I'm new to doing these switch ups. I'll do them smoother in the future.
Well, you're doing great, bud.
So okay, she's switching it to, about when parenthood begins. She said she switched her tactic in another debate. I think her name's Stephanie here, if I remember right. Let's keep listening.
Parents who starve, kill, torture their children. Whether you support abortion or you oppose abortion, there's this unified horror at these types of stories. Like there was that family, I think in California, that husband and wife, it recently came out in the news. They had like 8 children in their homes that were in cages. And it was a nightmare story. It was horrifying. And even people who support abortion would agree that was wrong. Why? Well, it's not just, it is wrong because innocents were harmed. But it's not just wrong because innocents were harmed. It's wrong because the innocents were harmed by their parents. And there is a sense we all have that parents have a responsibility to care for, not harm their children. So more and more, I'm trying to frame the abortion debate as a question surrounding what do civil societies expect of parents and when does parenthood begin?
Okay, I think we all agree that's really good. What does civil society expect of parents and when does parenthood begin? Now, let's hear her out first because she'll inform our discussion. I bet she has dedicated herself to this cause. Jesus bless her. Yeshua bless this woman.
She's very articulate, yes.
You become a mother the moment a preborn child comes into existence. You become a father the moment a preborn child comes into existence. So, if you're going to a baby shower, people, and the baby's not yet born, people will often get these cards. Congratulations, mother to be. And I want to set the record straight. I am a mother to be.
Yes,
I am a mother to be. And people are like, you're pregnant?
Yes.
No. The whole reason I'm a mother to be is because I'm not pregnant and never have been. Yes. I am a mother to be because I'm not yet a mother. But if you're pregnant, you are not a mother to be. You are a mother. And so it should be congratulations, mother. So then it comes down to what do we expect of mothers? And so that's what I would ask of Hillary. What do we expect of mothers? And to some extent, she should be able to answer that in a positive and affirming way because she is a mother and she's been a mother to Chelsea and she's now a grandmother to Chelsea's child or children, whatever the case is. And so we know it intuitively. And what we want to do is tap into the intuitions people have and make the connection for them in the case of the preborn child.
What do you say to people who say, we don't know when life begins?
Okay, so we have this parenthood topic, right? That what do we expect of parents? When does parenthood begin? And that was something because I was checking out these videos. Because last time I held an after show for an abortion debate, I wasn't ready, and I didn't know how to get ready fast. I was brand new to doing all this stuff. As far as like really doing it, I was brand new to that, and but I couldn't just not take the opportunity to do my best to speak out about it, So I prepared this time, and then there wasn't anyone to really discuss it hard with and have debate with, unfortunately. But I asked both the gentlemen that were in here, Connor and Nathan, I asked them both. Well, maybe I didn't get that far with Connor, but I asked Nathan about parental responsibility. No, I asked that with Connor. Yeah, that was when he kept assuming that what he said had implications about parental responsibility and had implications about justifying taking the human life, but he refused to actually talk about it and tell us what he was saying. After I tried 3 times, I think is accurate. So I asked them both about this, about the parental rights, and I'm just emphasizing that because neither of them had justification for their answers. And we wanted this to be a 2-sided discussion so that we could give both sides their fairest shake. But, I think parental responsibilities begin when you become a parent. So I think that's fair. And I also think that one becomes a parent at conception. That's a scientific fact. So that's more than fair. It's a fact. It's indisputable. So parental responsibility should begin at conception when one becomes a parent. And I mean, you'd have to completely detach parenthood from biology otherwise, and we know that parenthood is both biological and something else important in that you can get those from separate people. But yeah, you become a parent when you have a child, and that is at the moment of conception. I don't see any way to dispute that. Okay, I think that silence is agreement, maybe, brothers?
Yeah, that's done the video. Yeah, I agree with that totally. Yeah, and what she
Brother,
said, would be mother would be probably a better way to say that. She's a would be mother, but yeah, that's totally that's a great video. Was that the end of that
there,
video, or do you got more to share from it coming up?
Yeah, we can share more. I just
Okay, I didn't know.
figured if
I liked
silence
that
meant
video.
agreement, I could get you guys to actually say you agree real quick.
well,
Yeah,
there's really nothing to dispute.
yeah,
Exactly, and that's why you guys are left so silent. And like people
yeah.
who are people who are intellectually dishonest don't understand that. They don't understand like just like obvious truth just does it. You know, they repress
We're
truth.
all of the spirit. We all know truth. When we hear it, we know it. So we all heard truth right then, and there was nothing to be said.
It was beautiful. So I got to put it back up here real quick. Just by clicking a button like this.
Hey,
and isn't this just a religious?
Oh, go ahead, Jill.
yeah, yeah, I got it. It's getting kind of late, but thanks for having me on. I appreciate you letting me on your platform tonight, and God bless you, brothers. Abortion is murder. Anyone that's done it in the past, God can forgive you. So it's not the unpardonable sin. So ask God for forgiveness, and He'll forgive you. And thanks again for having me on, guys. Praise Nicholas, Ryan, and Keith. Right? I don't think I've ever met you.
Yes, sir. We've chatted before, but not formally introduced. So thank you. I definitely appreciate your contributions.
Later, Jill. Nice
Okay.
talking
See you
with
later.
All right.
See you later, Jill, and I'll
care.
see you on the second on my panel.
Okay. Take care.
Bye.
Yeah, the God of Messiah bless you, brother. Then it defaults to praise on my channel, huh? Thanks a lot, StreamYard. No, I'm just being funny.
That's funny.
Praise, man. Praise runs the streams these days, huh?
Yeah, I got my soundboard. I'm just kidding.
Hey, buddy, can I ask you one question? Was that, I don't mean to go off your topic. I'll be 1 second. Was that you when you fell asleep? Was that you snoring in that video when I got up the next day? When you fell asleep? Okay, because whoever that was, I mean, I think they may have sleep apnea. Oh, good. He might need to check with his doctor and let him hear that video. I mean, he may have sleep apnea. Sounded a lot like it. My mom has it. I was just concerned. Go ahead.
Who'd you say it was, Praise?
Smokey that was snoring on my channel.
Yeah, but
I mean, he sounded like he was underwater snorkeling, man.
Praise, that's not like overnight while no one's there kind of a thing, right? I think that's what Chris Keith is talking about. This was probably memory lapses often.
It was memory lapse. He ran your channel while you went out, I guess, and then he was last one talking. So it might have been memory lapse.
He was using
whoever it was.
He's your late night talk show, Praise. When you leave your stream on, memory lapse takes up a late night talk show these days. And yeah, I like memory lapse. I have plenty of disagreement with him, but nothing that well, anyway, nothing to say anything about. How about the video? Are we ready for the video?
Yes, sir.
Resume.
We don't know when life begins. And isn't this just a religious claim to say that there's some kind of soul thing that happens and that's just a religious idea?
Right. When people say they don't know when life begins, I then ask a question back and say, out of curiosity, when do you ban abortion? And wherever they ban abortion, I would say, well, isn't that when you think life begins? So if they ban abortion at 6 months pregnancy or at birth, then they must be acknowledging life begins there. Otherwise, they wouldn't ban abortion there. So then you make that point to show them you're claiming you don't know when life begins, but you are asserting you do.
Because you just said
because you
6
just drew a
months.
line. But then
Yeah.
here's the question: on what basis do you have for life beginning at 6 months or life beginning at birth? Even if you look at the number 6 months, that label for us to get there, 6 months, implies that we think something significant happened 6 months ago that caused us to count the passage of time, that caused us to look at the clock ticking. Oh, we got to 6 months. Well, if we got to 6 months, if fertilization is what happened 6 months ago, isn't that when life begins? If fertilization happened 3 months ago, instead of drawing the line at 3 months, wouldn't it be 3 months ago?
I just love how she doesn't like let any detail sneak by.
Oh no, she's extremely thorough. When we're done with this, Iron Charioteer has made a truly astonishing comment that the Bible in either testament never talks about abortion. What? Yes, it does.
Then oh yeah, one thing I think she got a little bit wrong was she said life begins at, which is a pretty vague way of speaking, because usually the argument gets broken up into, well, life begins at conception, but what they call personhood begins later. So that would be the only thing. But the way the details of the reality of biology, like people want to be blind about the reality of the child's life. They want to be blind about the reality of where we came from, and that when that same process that we came from, happens and creates someone else, like we came here that way. We had no other way to get here. We don't have a right to tell someone else they don't get to get here that way now that they are here.
Exactly.
And they are already here. That's the other thing, right?
Yeah, and I hate to keep going back to the Unborn Victims Act, but if they're being true in their worldview, then they have to argue that against the person that's being charged with the crime. Let's say that they are drunk and they hit a mother and they cause the death, or they actually go, like somebody said, beat them in the stomach or whatever, and they miscarriage. If they're being true to their worldview and that is not a life at that point, then they must take up for the person that because they didn't kill a life, because they're not recognizing it as a life. So I mean, because the law states that it's fetus, even the embryo. So even the embryo is a life in the law. That's the way it's worded. So to be consistent, I mean, I like to point out to them that they're not being consistent in their worldview, because they really get uncomfortable. And you just don't see it brought up enough when in these abortion debates. They hardly ever bring it up. I just wish they would pull that out. But go ahead.
Oh, someone else is coming in now. So we'll let this continue until the point that we started at earlier.
That life begins at the moment of sperm egg fusion. If someone were to say, well, I don't know when to ban abortion because I truly don't know when life begins, then I would say two things. One, I would give them the science for life beginning at fertilization. But two, I would say, if we don't know and you don't know, accept the science, shouldn't we err on the side of caution? If you're going to blow up an old building and you've got your dynamite all around, you're about to do an implosion, but someone says, you know what? I don't know if everyone's out of the building. There could be someone still inside here. Do you just say, well, let's blow it up anyways? Or do you err on the side of caution and say, we're not going to blow this building up until we're sure? So to say, I don't know when life begins is different than saying there is no life here.
Yeah.
And if someone cannot declaratively say there is no life here, but instead they're like, I just don't know, then they actually need to err on the side of caution and say, well, if we don't know, if there's a chance, then we need to err on that side.
But talk of the science for a moment.
Sure.
Of the moment.
So, and that might be unfortunate that he suddenly was like, we'll talk of the science for a moment, but they actually had like a 2.5 hour conversation, and I've only seen certain parts of it that they pulled for videos. So, maybe it wasn't unfortunate. Maybe they got to it. Let me see. I just don't want that on screen anymore. Boom, boom, boom. So what was I saying? What was she saying? Why did I forget so quick already?
Don't know.
Because I'm
Then
distracted.
they actually need to err on the side of caution and say,
Err
well,
on the side of caution
erring
of
on
when the
side of
child
caution, which is a point I totally
you made earlier.
earlier, yeah. And it's as simple as this. This is a debate community, so everyone who came here as a debate after show, pretty much, right? In debate, right? Burden of proof. Where is burden of proof on this one? You really want to say that? I mean, her demolition example was perfect. The burden of proof, and in demolition they do extreme due process to do the very best possible that the building's empty before they demolish, and so that's their proof, is the very best possible due process and protocol. And we have burden of proof in this case also, and then Huru's here, so let's see if we can get more discussion going. Huru, hello. What is your perspective that you're coming? Yeah, I don't remember exactly your perspective. Hello, Huru. You're a Christian brother, as I remember, right?
Right. Yeah. So
Excellent.
unfortunately, I agree with you guys. I know disagreement is probably more entertaining here, but
Yeah, it's not as much about entertainment, but it's a debate show after show, and we're
Right.
just totally beating down on this worldview, and I wanted to take some chance to really dig into it, but I don't think there's any strength to the pro-murder argument, and since there's no strength to it, it always resorts to vagaries or weak arguments, and we got more of the vagaries today than the weak arguments, I think, as far as during the after show.
Well,
From
I
ATS.
have a different sort of a question, or maybe just a topic. I think this abortion topic is quite polarizing, and like we all have an opinion on it. But have you guys looked at like the world's abortion laws and like what countries or what color, depending on like how stringent the laws are, like how liberal one is versus how it might be completely outlawed in some countries. If you do take a look at that, like Russia and North America, obviously, very liberal. Same with India. Africa, not very liberal at all. Same with South America and Mexico. In North America, if in our lifetimes or maybe the next 3 or 4 generations, do you see us going, as they say, back to being completely pro-choice, like the other countries, like South America is? Do you see that happening?
I don't care to conjecture about the future, to be honest, and I don't know if that's a good use of the time of the after show either, to just make up stuff about the future.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean that is. I appreciate the thought, but it is a bit too speculatory. When we were dealing with this debate on abortion, I don't think we should launch into a rabbit hole.
Okay, fair enough. Sorry, guys. I'll just listen.
Oh no, you're welcome to contribute, and I don't mind if something like that's like brought up as an interesting thing real quick. But yeah, I don't want to make it a focus topic. But hearing about it real quick was definitely cool. Nothing wrong with that.
No, yeah. Overall, I agree with you guys wholeheartedly about abortion. It's pretty obvious to me.
And then I know I pulled. Let me see. Purpose of uterus, we addressed that plenty. The booth idea, that was just addressed with the building being blown up. SLED, I mentioned that earlier. So all I've got left from the videos, it says here 1900 is truth. Bomb. Conclude with it. And, normally, well, it might be the hour that we're kind of like losing audience, but we could even start another stream if we want. But I think like this abortion topic is sort of kicking a dead horse, and I'm ready to end it. And actually, personally, like I need to relax and be ready for my next week because I had a big day today. It was my mother's 70th birthday, and we did a bunch of zip lining in the woods, and it involved a long been getting up early, and I was up late last night after doing our community stuff, preparing these video clips and making sure that I was ready to like debate, which I didn't really need to, but I still got to say all the good arguments. So yeah, it was
Your
good that
your mom did some zip lining?
yeah,
Wow,
my
that's
dad
awesome.
my dad's 76 now, but when he was 70, he was very young, and my mom's very young. They're the youngest
Sheesh.
70-year-old
Yeah, my
I've
mom's
I
ever.
hope
70. I don't
I'm that.
see her
I
doing no
hope
zip
I'm that.
lining.
I hope
Yeah,
I'm
me
that
too.
hope I'm that vivacious at 76. Sheesh.
Well, oh yeah, and
Yeah.
I've got to say, like, this isn't like they're just barely able to do it kind of a thing, and they have a good time, and we bring them out there or something like. No, I mean, I mean, my dad didn't take care of himself for a little bit, and he went from being not elderly at all, and he was in his early 70s, and then then he had sudden drastic health problems, and he's bouncing back a lot, but I would say he is elderly now. But yeah, my mom's not really even elderly yet, and she's 70, and when my dad was 70, he wasn't even elderly yet either. And so and they're
Yeah,
Good
both still really
good
good shape.
genes, man. Good genes. My
I was
papa's
going
fixing
to
to turn
say.
94, and when he was probably 80, man, he was still out mowing yards and doing all kinds of stuff, man.
Oh,
Just
here's
so good genetics on your side.
Well, here's what's interesting too is my mother's parents both died relatively young in their 60s at the oldest, and my grandfather. I thought people in their 60s were like super old because my grandfather he didn't take care of himself in his life, and he was when I knew him when I was a young child, he was super old. And like it actually took a long time for me to get that stigma out of my head about like, I thought people in their 60s were as old as people in like their 80s might tend to be.
It all
But
depends on how you take care of your body, man, and what you did when you're young. It catches up with you.
Oh, I agree. I agree. Maybe if we're going to just banter, we should end this stream here so we don't derail it and make it this,
Yeah,
10,000 hour abomination.
yeah. So somebody
yeah,
can watch it and get something out of it. True.
yeah, let's do this end of the
Give
video thing.
Nicholas some time to rest. You've been doing it. You've been doing very well, buddy. Man, congratulations. You're getting better and better every time you do these.
Oh, well, thank you. It's just Christ. All I can do is be honest and rest in Him, and
Amen.
that just shows what it shows. Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as that.
The
And there's a
conversations
lot
seem
of
to flow good, So that's a one good sign of a good stream or a good moderated broadcast is that the conversation flows good and you give everybody a chance to speak and there's really not a lot of over talking, and I appreciate that, man, a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, and
As I cut you off.
so no, you're good, and that's part of the cooperation to make this happen. But there's so much like that's fun and interesting about doing this, and I'm getting the video up by the way. And I would yeah, the simple thing though, as far as like any gratitude, is that all goes to Christ. But like this is really fun and cool to do, and I'm so glad to be doing it, and I thank Christ for that. And then okay, I got it up. I just need to take a couple steps here. So hang tight with me just one more moment.
You're cool. I like how you got your standards. You don't like all the profanity and all that, and that you don't like the hard arguing and and everybody getting angry. You try to bring it back down. That's cool, man. Because I like conversations like this.
I
Really
like
do.
it too because, frankly, I was on. I've even just yesterday when I was on JIL's panel and someone I know hijacked the stream. It was miserable to try to return to the topic, which was the eternal sonship of Christ.
Right.
Then deal with this person that's bringing in all this stuff. I very much dislike when that happens. Honestly, that's why I let very few people on my panel.
Yeah.
I
Nick's good about bringing it back to the topic. Yeah.
Because I remember earlier I interjected with that thing with Iron Charioteer and all that, and I interjected with all you guys. I was like, okay, I don't even care what's going on. We're drawing a hard line here.
Yeah.
So I'm glad.
And just a real quick, man, do you want to promote your Friday? Could you go maybe spend 30 seconds or a minute talking about your what you're going to be doing on Fridays?
Oh yeah, let me just put the link in the side chat, and then all the information you need is in the link. This is for our Christian brothers and sisters. I'm going to do a worship show. I need volunteers. It's easy stuff, like you can read a psalm or something, you know. So I got a list of things and an email address to receive all that stuff at. So give me just 1 second because I'm juggling all these different screens here, of course. But
Yeah, take your time.
so all the information you need is in the description of the link that is going into chat right now. And I'm going to do another video on this. So if you'll all subscribe to my channel if you're not subscribed yet, and it'll be like a more professional short video about the worship show coming up. And I mean, hopefully it's not just me. Hopefully it's at least like 2 or 3 other people, but we'll grow it over time. You know, I know that this stuff doesn't come naturally to everyone, but it comes naturally to me. I used to be a musician and stuff like that. And, you know, one of my specialties was deciding what order the songs would go in and stuff. So production and the idea of running a show and stuff is right up my alley. And I'd like to do this for the community. Now here is this big like moment or whatever here. Let's see what it was. I think it has something to do with, I won't even say, let's just see. It might have to do with the wider scope of things.
As experts in online education, Purdue University Global Teachers.
You'll have to crank up the volume there, Nicholas.
You guys will have to crank up the volume because of this system. This is max volume. So sorry, audience, you'll need to crank up the volume, but we'll let him speak uninterrupted, and then you can turn it back down when he's done.
I can't hear him. You may have to go back and put your mic next to that.
I was going to say, it sounds like you're having either connection issues with your actual microphone, or you've not got the microphone on.
Okay, guys, I forgot to hit the sound setting. So when you said you couldn't, when you said I'd have to turn it up, I was thinking that you were hearing it faintly. But yeah, let me fix that. That was my bad.
No, it happens all the time.
Yeah, I got to get these habits down. But, you know, my first priority is not the habit of clicking the share audio button. It's more trying to have good judgment if I'm going to interrupt people and stuff like that. Okay, so let's roll one more time.
As the president, we kill our children and speak of it as a virtue. By the way, that is a commonality in dystopian literature. Hunger Games. There's a new book franchise.
So we do have to stop real quick and just, we kill our children and speak of it as a virtue. And that virtue is called pro-choice. You know, that the woman has a right to life, but only after she's left the womb.
It's called second born, where if you're second born, you're the lower class, and if you're third born, we just kill you. And it's thought of as kind of a virtue, a good thing, a noble thing. We kind of look at it that way. Cue all the people that tell me that even pro-choice people don't think of abortion as noble. No, but it's a virtue that you have this freedom to make your own decisions. There is a pandemic, and it has vastly altered the way that we live our lives. This is very much like a dystopian novel. There is racial division. And lastly, and perhaps most controversially, we are surgically altering our physical bodies in order to identify more fully as a member of the opposite sex. I submit to you, to individuals 60 years ago, who admittedly had evils of their own that needed to be eradicated. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't this, for all the, you know, quintessential idyllic images we get of a Leave It to Beaver family in the 1950s. They had their own problems. The way that the racial issues then being chief among them that we need to consider. But at the same time, this would have sounded like a nightmarish dystopian science fiction book. But here we are. This is all either made possible or worsened by the fact that we are running to AI Jesus, that is the internet. and surface level readings of those things instead of going to a real authority, the actual Jesus actual.
So there we go, right? And there was one more thing that he said in another part of this video, and that's about how he does not like if people deify Trump. Like he's the candidate we are voting for, most of us. But being like, well, now that I've decided to vote for him, I'm going to think in a way that justifies my vote rather than in straightforward honesty. Because Braxton Hunter, it sounds like he's going to vote for Trump. And he's mostly a one-issue voter on abortion, you know? But I totally agree with him. We should not be deifying Trump because when they ask us why we're voting for Trump or when we tell them why we're voting for Trump, we should have like relevant reasons, not just,
Right.
well, now that I voted for him, I've started thinking everything's good about him, so let me just like praise him. That's
Well,
not really going to give them any insight into our worldview and
no.
why we're doing things and making the world better.
Regarding President Trump, and mind you, I'm not a full tilt Trump supporter myself. He has done very well on abortion. I think there was a teenager that was harassed by the cancel culture movement not all that long ago, and he came out making a statement that he backs Trump because of Trump's stand against abortion. I mean, honestly, one of the greatest mistakes in this country was the allowing of Roe v. Wade, even though Jane Roe later recanted, it was too late.
Very, and that's exactly what I was talking about. That boy who got cancel cultured, but he said he supported Trump for a specific and important reason.
Right.
And then that
He-
tells them, you know, hey, if you want your candidate to be an option, you need to oppose abortion, right? Like if we can get 60, 2/3 of the nation unwilling to vote for a candidate that's going to allow abortion, then like both parties have to oppose abortion, and abortion can be put to an end. So I mean, this is just something we can do, we should be doing. We're working on it. And those of you who love murder, be afraid of the light, right? Because this is the condemnation. Because Christ did not come to condemn you, he came to give you life. But if you don't trust him, you're already condemned. And this is the condemnation, that Christ is the light, and the light came into the world, and you loved darkness instead of light. And while this is focused on abortion, really it's about Christ. If you're rejecting Christ, you're facilitating darkness, you're facilitating abortion as well. And you want it to be separate issues, but it's not. We solved this problem 2,000 years ago on the cross. I say we, I'm taking like ownership of Christ, but I think that's what Christ has given me. That was like a slip, but a slip that all own. But Christ, he solved this 2,000 years ago, and he's given it to us. And I have received what I don't deserve to have it, and I want to offer it to all of you. Okay, shall we end on that, brothers?
Sure, man. That was.
It would seem
said
that
real
is
well.
a decent stopping point. We're coming right almost at 3 hours.
That's perfect.
Okay. Well, I like to let everyone say goodbye, and I have a nice goodbye thing to say. So, Praise, would you like to say goodbye?
Yeah, so shalom. Thank you for having me on here, Nicholas, and everyone else, the fellowship here, and I really enjoyed it. Good points, everyone. So I want to say God bless everyone.
I guess I'll say goodbye. I want to thank Nathan for coming in. Nathan, I just want you to keep coming back, buddy. Repent. Every one of us every day have to ask for mercy. Repent. I have to do it several times a day. And just keep coming back and asking for the mercy of the Lord Jesus Christ. He will make you whole. And I pray that you come back to Christ, and be that prodigal son. And I'll end with that. Thank you.
I would simply exhort that abortion is a terrible genocide against the unborn. It is responsible for effectively deleting multiple generations of humankind. If we allow in the United States Joe Biden to be elected, then we will continue to see more and more unborn completely and totally massacred out of the womb. But the more important issue is, as we've touched on tonight, what about your soul, friend? What about your soul? Have you faith towards God, or do you have your faith toward anything else? And if you have your faith toward anything else, oh friend, you've been fooled. Turn to the Lord Jesus Christ. And I say amen.
Thank you very much, brothers. And yeah, Christ is the light of the world. He came to be the propitiation not only for the sins of those of us who trust in him, but for the entire world. And the solution to this abortion problem, the solution to people not wanting children when they should want them, the solution to all of it is Christ. But if you love your darkness, if you want to think, if you'd rather think that murderers are not murderers, then you'll think murderers are not murderers. But if you'd rather put an end to murder, then you'll put an end to murder, you know? And that's the love of darkness, that you'd rather not know better. And that's the condemnation, that you're already condemned for not trusting Christ, because all who are of the truth hear his voice. That the light came into the world and you loved darkness rather than light. So, as always, I wish shalom to everyone. That's the one true peace that only the Christ can give. And for that reason, because only he can give you true peace, also because only he's the one who brought all of us here to advocate for these babies. And when the time comes that we have enough people to put an end to this, it will be Christ's victory. He has given us many things before. He freed the slaves. It was so unchristian when they were doing that horrible, horrible form of slavery in the transatlantic slave trade. And it was because there were Christians that the slaves were freed. Christians who truly followed Christ. And those who weren't listening to Christ but loved the world, because the slavery was not of Christ. That form of slavery was of the world. But it says in the scriptures that whosoever loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. But Christ had the victory, that he freed the slaves. And he'll have the victory when we overcome this Holocaust against the youngest of men and the youngest of women. So these are beautiful reasons to just trust Messiah.